Chapter 1392, The Greatest City in the World, 1. Elders, I am willing to assist you in rebuilding Mercenary City so that you can recover your peak strength in the shortest amount of time, Jian Chen expressed his thoughts. He had accumulated a heavy debt with Mercenary City throughout his growth. Mercenary City possessed a special place in his heart as well. Now that the renowned Mercenary City had disappeared from the continent, he felt horrible. Xiaoling became very upset beside Jianchen. She became extremely depressed and unhappy. If they had to nominate someone who was most attached to the city, it would definitely be Xiaoling. She had grown up in the city and guarded it for countless years. Mercenary City was not as simple as a home to her because it was the marks her master had left behind. The three Saint Kings of Mercenary City expressed their gratitude toward Jianchen. They all respected him, the respect given to someone who is strong. The battle had cemented Jianchen's status into place. Great-grandfathers, great-grandmother, how are your injuries? I'll heal you with the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Jianchen turned his attention to Changyang Zhu Xiao, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, and Changyang Zhu Yin. His eyes were filled with concern. Regardless of how powerful he had become, they were still his seniors after all. Hee, my dear great-grandson, our injuries are nothing. We can recover with just some medicine, so there's no need for you to do something like that. Changyang Zhu Xiao chuckled aloud as Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Yeyun smiled joyously. It was extremely pleasant to their ears when Jianchen referred to them as great-grandfather or great-grandfather. They felt extremely prideful. After all, Jianchen's status was now extraordinary. In the eyes of many, he was an origin realm expert. He had even slain peak Saint Emperors just earlier. Great-grandson, who would this be? Changyang Zhu Yunxiao asked curiously as he looked at Xiao Jin. He was filled with gratitude toward Xiao Jin, because he knew that if it were not for the boy's assistance several times, he probably would have died in battle already. Jianchen told them the truth about Xiao Jin. When they learned that the shocking lightning near the tungsten alloy mine had been caused by him and when they learned about his true identity, the three of them along with the three elders of Mercenary City became absolutely stunned. Disbelief flooded their faces. Xiao Jin was actually a natural spirit given birth to by the world, and he possessed the power of an origin realm expert as soon as he came into existence. This had completely overwhelmed their understanding of the world. After all, there were extremely few origin realm experts even in ancient times, only totaling to 4. Jianchen and Changyang Zhu Xiao spoke some more. Jianchen then took Xiao Jin with him back to Flame City. The three of them did not stay for much longer either, returning to the Changyang clan in Lore City soon after Jianchen had left. Xiaoling did not leave with Jianchen and instead stayed behind, full of sorrow. She stared at the place where Mercenary City used to stand in a daze. Not only did the disappearance of the city mean that she had lost her home, the marks her master had once left behind had vanished as well. This filled her with sorrow and anguish. Even Jianchen's comforting was not enough to calm her down. News of the shocking battle that had occurred at Mercenary City spread across the continent like wildfire. The news caused a huge commotion. Not only did it raise a huge commotion on the continent, even the three other races behaved similarly. Although the 4 races suffered extremely heavy casualties this time, they were still victorious in the end. They had slain all the invaders, so the invasion did not cause much panic. Some places were even filled with celebrations. At the same time, Jianchen, Xiao Jin, the Sea Goddess, and Tai Ta had become known to everyone from their performances in the battle, shocking all 4 races. Soon after the battle had ended, the saint rulers of the Shunxiao sect, Yangji sect, Yiyuan sect, and Moyuan clan all arrived at the battlefield. They cast secret techniques in search of their emperor armaments that had fallen into the magma. Afterward, they managed to retrieve them successfully with the assistance of the 3 Saint Kings of Mercenary City. They then returned to their clans with them. The seal over Flame City was released when Jianchen returned. Yu, Bai Lian, and the rest ran to Jianchen's side and flooded him with questions. They were all concerned about what happened at Mercenary City. Their faces all lit up when they learned that their world managed to fend off the invasion. They could finally relax. Afterward, Jianchen decided to complete his unprecedented deed. He took Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng Yunjing, Sr. and the others, the several dozen elites of the Flame Mercenaries, to the depths of the tungsten alloy mine again. He used the various heavenly resources he had obtained from the Xianhuang microcosm to increase their strength. He understood that he had only fended off the first wave of attacks from the world of Forsaken Saints. The tunnel was still unstable right now, so only Saint Emperors could pass through. Those beyond Saint Emperor could easily cause the tunnel to collapse. It would not completely destroy the tunnel, but they would be sucked into the endless cosmos by the chaotic space. Even Origin Realm experts would not necessarily survive that. Right now, the tunnel was gradually stabilizing. This was an unstoppable process, where even wreaking havoc upon it would only delay the inevitable. Once the tunnel completely stabilized, the world of Forsaken Saints would definitely send even more Saint Emperors or even Origin Realm experts. As a result, Jianchen needed to increase the strength they possessed. Not only did it include his personal strength, but that strength also included the overall strength of the Tianyuan continent and even the sea race, magical beasts, and 100 races as well. Making the Flame Mercenaries powerful was only the first step. Jianchen had harvested a total of 3 5th-grade violet cloud peach trees in total in the Xianhuang microcosm. Each tree bore 108 peaches, so he did not worry about wasting them at all when he increased the strength of the several dozen people before him. He gave them all 5th-grade violet cloud peaches without a second thought. Because most of them were Heaven Saint Masters and not a single one of them had stepped into sainthood, only 5th-grade violet cloud peaches would be the best insurance that they would all become Saint Kings. After all, they would end up wasting a lot of the vast energy during the absorption process. A day later, the first rainbow clouds appeared in the sky. They were not 7-colored but 5-colored, a Saint Ruler's breakthrough. Little Fatty was the one who had broken through since he possessed the most talent out of all of them. Soon after Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, Yunjing, Sr. and the group of elites all broke through. At that moment, the sky became filled with rainbow light, which lit up the world. There were 9 colors present among all the clouds, reaching over 1,000,000 kilometers away. These were not 9-colored clouds, but several layers of rainbow clouds caused by the simultaneous breakthrough of several dozen people. Every single person's rainbow clouds possessed different colors, which was why there were 9 colors when the several dozen layers of clouds appeared. The clouds enveloped an area far greater than a single person's breakthrough. This had caused quite a large disturbance on the continent again. Many Saint Rulers had even thought that a new Saint Emperor had appeared. The mountain range was currently shrouded by fog while the dense energy of the world drifted in the surroundings, pouring out as dense mist. All of this was due to the energy of the violet cloud peaches leaking out of their bodies. They had probably absorbed less than half of the true energy within the peach they had consumed. Several days later, Little Fatty broke through again, stepping into Saint King first. 7-colored clouds descended in the sky, enveloping an area of 1,000,000 kilometers. After him, the others broke through one by one as well. In just a short day, they had all reached Saint King. Several dozen layers of 7-colored clouds flooded the sky. They radiated dazzling lights as 9 different colors enveloped the entire continent. The disturbance this time was even greater than when they had become Saint Rulers. The stacked layer of clouds spread in all directions at an unbelievable rate, enveloping the entire continent very soon and causing a huge commotion. However, the clouds did not stop there. The rainbow clouds continued to expand into the sea, stopping at the borders of the sea race, the magical beasts, and the 100 races in the end, shocking all the experts of the 3 races. These aren't 9-colored rainbow clouds, but 7-colored ones caused by people breaking through to Saint King. My God, I can sense over 57-colored rainbow clouds stacked atop one another. There's actually several dozen Saint Rulers breaking through into Saint Kings together. It's from the direction of the Tianyuan continent. How is this possible? How can there be so many Saint Rulers breaking through together? The Saint Kings of all races stared at the sky while dumbfounded. They were extremely shocked. The simultaneous breakthrough of several dozen Saint Rulers had not happened even during the glorious ancient times. Let alone several dozen, Just a dozen saint rulers breaking through together had not ever happened in the past. Chapter 1393, The Greatest City in the World, 2. This time, Jianchen caused several dozen people to reach Saint King, leading to just too great of a disturbance. Several dozen seven-colored rainbow clouds layered upon one another, forming something akin to nine-colored rainbow clouds that only appeared when Saint Kings broke through to Saint Emperors, except that was a far more majestic sight. The nine-colored rainbow clouds of Saint Emperors would only span across the entire continent, while the several dozen layers of clouds right now had actually surpassed the boundaries of the continent in the form of a mixed nine-colored cloud and had reached the edges of the three other races. At that moment, the entire world was in shock. Whether it was the humans on the Tianyuan continent, the 100 races, or the magical beasts, all of them felt extremely perturbed. Even the sea race hidden deep beneath the ocean could sense the clouds, leading a few Saint Kings to emerge from the ocean. They stared into the distance in shock as the ocean churned. If they had only been saint rulers, they would definitely have suspected that the nine-colored clouds came from a Saint King's breakthrough, but the mysteries within the clouds were not enough to fool the Saint Kings. All of them could sense that even though the clouds looked like they had 9 colors, they were really several dozen seven-colored rainbow clouds stacked on top of each other. What's happening on the Tianyuan continent? Why are there so many 14th star warriors breaking through to the 15th star? Some experts of the sea race asked out of curiosity. The strongest human of the Tianyuan continent, Jianchen, has close ties with our sea goddess Hall. This means that the humans are the good friends of us as well. Let's go to the Tianyuan continent and have a look. Let's see what's going on, said a Saint King from the sea goddess Hall. The simultaneous breakthrough of several dozen people had piqued their curiosity. All right, let's go, agreed an old man. His face was rather pale, clearly still injured, but his injuries were not enough to stop him from checking things out. This bloody sun sure is uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm being burnt alive. An extremely burly middle-aged cursed unhappily as he glanced at the sun in the sky. The sea race spent most of their time in the sea realm and were used to the underwater environment there. They were not accustomed to the sun even though it could not harm them. Afterward, the sea race experts all ripped open space gates and made their way to the Tianyuan continent. At the same time, many magical beasts moved out as well. The simultaneous breakthroughs of several saint rulers was an occurrence worth investigating. All of them wanted to go to the Tianyuan continent to see what was going on. They wanted to find out if a shortcut from Saint Ruler to Saint King existed. Even the 3 rulers of the continent who were currently recuperating in the Beast God Hall were alerted. They all hovered outside the Divine Hall as they stared in the direction of the Tianyuan continent. The wasteland continent inhabited by the 100 races was a desolate, dreary place. Yellow sand and dry earth spanned as far as the eye could see, and even the ancient mountains were bare. There was rarely any greenery visible anywhere. In the center of the continent stood a mountain that reached into the clouds. It was extremely well known on the continent because all the authority of the 100 races was centered around the mountain. The mountain was known as War God Mountain. It was a holy place among the 100 races because it was where their supreme War God Hall stood. The golden divine hall glowed with an unprecedented luster right now. It was as dazzling as the sun. It stood there silently like a slumbering primordial beast, radiating with prestige and a certain holiness. The 3-meter-tall Taita sat on the central golden throne that signified the greatest authority inside. His golden skin seemed to fuse with the throne, shining with a faint, golden luster that resonated with the entire hall. All the experts of the 100 races gathered beneath Taita. All of them knelt on the floor emotionally. A few older people had even teared up while their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Basically, all the people present possessed wounds that came from the battle against the world of forsaken saints. However, none of them bothered with their injuries. No matter how heavily wounded they were, as long as they could stand and remain conscious, they had all gathered here to welcome their war god. Great King of War, you have finally returned. We have waited painfully. Great War God, we've finally found you. Our 100 races can strive toward glory as long as we are led by you, Great War God. The entire race shares the same sentiment. We are all willing to abide by your commands. You stand supreme. You are the faith of the 100 races, the soul of everyone. The experts of the 100 races below emotionally cried out. Every single one of their cries was filled with joy. Their sorrow from the deaths of so many experts had already been overshadowed by the return of their war god. The news of the war god's return spread through the entire continent like wildfire. This threw all the clansmen into utter joy and excitement. On a continent with horrible living conditions, there was cheering wherever people were present. Some people had even begun to decorate their households with lanterns and streamers, filling the land with joy. At this moment, Tai Ta sensed something. He suddenly looked in the direction of the Tianyuan continent and sank deep into thought. His strength was extraordinary. Clearly, he had sensed the disturbance that was occurring in the direction of the Tianyuan continent as well. However, the War God Hall was situated in the center of the continent. It was extremely distant from the borders, so no one else in the Divine Hall had sensed the pulse of energy from the Tianyuan continent aside from Tai Ta, including Saint Kings at great perfection. Little Fatty and the others continued to break through in the mountain range near Flame City. After becoming Saint Kings, the vast energy from the violet cloud peaches still remained. They all advanced toward the first heavenly layer, the second heavenly layer, the third heavenly layer, and so on. The comprehension T came into effect as their strength increased. It allowed all of them to enter a wondrous mental state, assisting them in the comprehension of the mysteries of the world. With the assistance of the T, the mysteries of the world were presented before in them in the clearest fashion possible. Many experts gathered in the surroundings of the mountain range. Not only had saint rulers come, even quite a few saint kings were present. A dazzling violet light flickered in the sky above the mountain range. The Ziying sword had become 30 meters in length as it hovered there. Jian Chen was sitting on top of it, carefully observing everything below. He had expanded the senses of his soul to 10,000 kilometers away, watching over the people below him and protecting them as they broke through. The several dozen saint kings have broken through here. I remember that there was a storm of lightning here recently. Looks like this place really is rather special. Maybe overcoming bottlenecks will become much easier if I cultivate here. The energy of the world here is just far too dense. I've cultivated for thousands of years, and I've even visited the miniature worlds of the 10 protector clans, but they're all like streams compared to this sea of energy. The saint kings present all sighed emotionally. They felt like they had arrived in heaven. Not only was the energy of the world extremely dense, but it was also extremely pure as well. Not only were there humans, members of the sea race, the 100 races and the magical beasts were present as well. Although the saint kings in the War God Hall had failed to sense the disturbance, the experts on the edge of the continent could clearly see the rainbow light that came from the clouds. If it was any other day, the people would definitely have been obstructed by all the experts of the Tianyuan continent as soon as they had appeared, but now, they required the reinforcements of the 3 other races to fend off the threat of the foreign world. This was why many people gave up their xenophobic thoughts and did not step forward to stop the arrival of the foreigners. Let's go in and have a look to see just what the secret is, a magical beast suggested. He won the support of quite a few people very soon. He immediately set off with over 20 saint kings, carefully making his way toward the mountain range. However, before they had even traveled 1,000 meters, an azure sword shot through the air as a flash of azure light. It hung in the air as it obstructed them in the form of a sword several dozen meters long. Isn't this one of Saint Emperor Jian Chen's divine swords? Someone immediately recognized the Qing Suo sword and asked aloud. Sovereign Jian Chen's strength has already surpassed Saint Emperor and reached the legendary origin realm. If you speak Sovereign Jian Chen's name carelessly, you won't be returning today if you anger him, a human rebuked quietly. He felt extremely unpleasant. Jian Chen was now the pride and glory of the humans as well as a crucial figure in matching up against the 3 other races. He obviously needed to be extremely protective over their glorious leader as a human before foreigners. The foreign expert's face immediately changed slightly when he heard that. He showed deep fear. He too had taken part in the battle and had personally witnessed Jian Chen killing Saint Emperors like ants. Chapter 1394, The Greatest City in the World. 3. The Qing Suo sword hovered in the air and blocked everyone's path, immediately forcing them all to a stop. They all stood where they were, unwilling to take a step further. All of them recognized the origins of the sword. Even though they were all Saint Kings, standing at the very top among their own races and clans both in power and status, they all lowered themselves before the Qing Suo sword and behaved politely. Everyone, the people of my flame mercenaries are undergoing breakthroughs here. I hope you do not disturb them, in case you affect their cultivation. Jian Chen's voice rang through everyone's head. In order to prevent any disturbances, he had communicated to all the people present through a technique. It's the voice of Sovereign Jian Chen. A human expert exclaimed. His voice bore some excitement. Even though Jian Chen was only a junior in all their eyes and his age was nothing to them, in this world, where strength dominated, age was not important. At most, it could be used to measure someone's talent. I never thought that the sovereign of the humans would be here. Let's all back off, muttered a foreign expert. No wonder there's been such a great disturbance here. We had even thought that there was a shortcut to Saint King hidden here. Looks like it's just the human sovereign using his great abilities and helping his subordinates break through. The human sovereign is powerful enough to actually create several dozen Saint Kings. Just how has he achieved this? Can you learn some heaven-defying techniques once you surpass Saint Emperor and reach the legendary origin realm? Many people discussed the information they had just obtained, but they all kept their voices to a bare minimum. After that, they all slowly backed off, no longer wanting to investigate what was going on inside. In the end, all the Saint Kings backed off to the outskirts of the mountain range, but none of them left. They all remained there as they quietly stared into the depths. Some people had even found a place to sit down and began to cultivate. The energy of the world here had reached an unbelievable density. They had never felt a place with such a dense and pure energy. It would be extremely beneficial to them if they cultivated in these conditions. Improving by leaps and bounds would be quite an appropriate description if they cultivated here. Several days later, Little Fatty and the others all roused from their cultivation. The moment they opened their eyes, their gazes became filled with obvious excitement and joy. A Saint King was a supreme realm of cultivation, unreachable to many of them. Some of them had even made the wish that they wanted to reach Saint King. After all, reaching that level of cultivation required both talent and time. Yet now, they had actually all broken through to Saint King in just a few short days, even though they had been Heaven Saint Masters before, which was dreamlike to them. It did not seem realistic at all. Yun Zheng, Senior, and the several dozen elites were especially emotional. Everyone gather. Suddenly, a loud voice rang through the entire mountain ranges. One of the leader of the elite mercenaries, Charles, had given the order, and immediately, the several dozen people, who were scattered around, all hurried over. In less than 10 seconds, they had all gathered in an orderly fashion. They were still unable to control their powers since they had just broken through. They could not help but let their powers leak out, so a storm of energy immediately formed where they stood. The storm of energy caused the wind and clouds to churn while their surroundings became flooded with a suffocating pressure. The joy from breaking through had already vanished after they had gathered together. They all suppressed their feelings, recovering their usual cool. They all stood there emotionlessly as their eyes burned brightly. They seemed like trained soldiers. Little Fatty, Wang Yifeng, Yun Zheng, and Senior and did not stand with them. They all arrived behind Jian Chen. Similarly, great energy would surge from their bodies from time to time. Although their abrupt increase in strength did not come with any after effects, they clearly still needed some time to become familiar with the powers that they had suddenly obtained. Our flame mercenaries have gained several dozen Saint Kings now. This is just wonderful. Bai Lian Yu, Ming Dong, and the others all hurried over from the city. They looked at the group of Saint Kings who stood like soldiers and all expressed their inner joy. The various Saint Kings on the outskirts of the mountain range all saw this clearly as well and gasped. Not only had the flame mercenaries gained several dozen Saint Kings in a single stroke, the Saint Kings even behaved like soldiers. This had never happened before, not even in ancient times. The Saint Kings actually all belonged to the same organization. Flame City is just far too powerful. The Tianyuan continent has just survived a calamity. The 4 races have lost many Saint Kings, and there are not many left now. At such a time, Flame City has suddenly gained several dozen Saint Kings. The Flame City has truly become the greatest city in the world. The Flame Mercenaries have become the greatest mercenary group and organization on the Tianyuan continent. Not only do they have many Saint Kings, they even have a sovereign. Many people emotionally sighed while standing on the outskirts of the mountains. The Flame Mercenaries were once renowned on the continent, but they did not possess much overall power at all. They had extremely few Saint Kings, none in fact. They had been supported by just Jian Chen and the 3 magical beasts. But it was all different now. Ming Dong, Dugafeng Yu, and Bai Hai had all become Saint Kings. The Flame Mercenaries had also gained another group of Saint Kings now. Without any exaggeration, the Flame Mercenaries possessed extremely great power overall. They could still stand supreme on the continent without Jian Chen. Jian Chen walked through the air and arrived before the group of people who had followed him the earliest. His face was filled with pride. When the group of people before him had joined him at the very beginning, they had all been Saint Masters or Great Saint Masters, without a single Earth Saint Master. Yet now, under his lead, they had grown and changed step by step. They had finally attained their current achievements after exhausting a large amount of resources and great heavenly resources. This filled Jian Chen with great pride and satisfaction. This was because he had personally raised this group of people. He had cultivated them from ordinary mercenaries to supreme experts. Chapter 1395. Divine Guards of the Flame. Several decades of life and death training, several decades of tough cultivation have allowed you to grow from nameless mercenaries into superpowers that reign supreme across the continent. From today on, you can emerge into the light from your dark corner. From today on, the Tianyuan continent will change because of your existence. In the future, you will become the glory of the Flame Mercenaries, the honor of the Flame Mercenaries, and the protectors of the Flame Mercenaries. We will become even more powerful because you are present. As the second captain of the Flame Mercenaries, I shall bestow a new name upon you. You shall be known as the Divine Guards of the Flame. Jian Chen said emotionally and loudly. His voice rang out like a bell, reverberating across the entire mountain range with supreme authority. We thank the captain for the name he has bestowed. We will forget our former name and exist in this world as the Divine Guards of the Flame. We will guard the glory of the Flame Mercenaries wholeheartedly and lay down our lives to protect the name of the Flame Mercenaries. We will never let down the captain, Emotion replied loudly and forcefully. His voice was emotional and his determined eyes had even began to tear up. Emotion had only been a puny Saint Master back in Wake City of the Blue Wing Kingdom. One of a countless number of mercenaries who had lived at the very bottom of society. He had often fought with brutal magical beasts, coming close to death time and time again just to make some money and live. At that time, his greatest wish was to become an Earth Saint Master, while becoming a Heaven Saint Master was his dream. This was because Heaven Saint Masters were extremely impressive experts in the Blue Wind Kingdom. Once he became a Heaven Saint Master, he would be able to enjoy infinite wealth and glory. Not only had he achieved his wish of the past, but he had even become a glorious Saint King. Even with the entire continent in perspective, he was now a great existence. He had never even wished about attaining something like this in the past. At this moment, he felt overjoyed over the smart decision he had made before. If he had not sworn his life to Jian Chen, it would have been impossible for him to have today's glory. The Saint Kings who had gathered on the outskirts of the mountain range all sighed in surprise. These several dozen Saint Kings would only take up the position of guards in Flame City. This had completely overturned everything they knew. Throughout the entire continent, there was no Saint King who was not worshipped like a god. Even in the Protector clans, anyone who broke through to Saint King would immediately be promoted to Great Elder and would possess absolute authority. Even among the Sea race, which had many more Saint Kings than the Tianyuan continent, they would never use Saint Kings as protectors or guards. Even the 3 great halls needed to provide Saint Kings the premium life. Flame City had done something no one had ever done before. They were the only ones to use Saint Kings as guards throughout history. Jianchen returned to Flame City with the guards. Yu and everyone else and was welcomed by the most enthusiastic cheers of the entire city. The news of Flame City's sudden increase in Saint Kings swiftly spread across the entire continent. The news even reached the ears of the 3 other races. It threw them all into a huge commotion. The world was taken by shock. Everyone discussed this matter as they sighed in surprise. The next day, countless Saint Kings visited Flame City. This included people from all 4 races. They had come to congratulate the Flame City on their ascension. Even the Hall Master of the Sea Goddess Hall, Yadrium, personally came. Jianchen, led by Lian and Yu, received most visitors. He only personally received a few guests he was familiar with, such as Yadrium, Changyang Zushao, and so on. In short, it was basically impossible for the Saint Kings who did not have any ties with Jianchen to see him. It was not because of Jianchen's pride, but there were just far too many people who had come. He did not want to waste his energy on greeting them all. The 4 imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom had come as well, but the treatment they received in Flame City was far greater than other Saint Kings. As mere saint rulers, they were invited to the back to meet Jianchen without any obstructions at all. Kara Liwei visited Flame City with her ancestor, Kara Lot, as well. They were invited to the back as well. Other than them, Tianmu Ling had also come, meeting Jianchen while accompanied by Jun Moheo and Wang Yinhong. "Brother Jianchen, can I still call you that now?" Tianmu Ling asked carefully as soon as she saw Jianchen. She acted pitiful and showed some fear on her face. Jianchen was extremely happy to see old friends. He chuckled aloud. "Why not? Miss Tianmu Ling has helped me a lot in the past, so how could I forget about you? My status greatly differs from the past, but it cannot change my morals as a person." Tianmu Ling was unsettled by how she had referred to Jianchen before. She felt extremely uneasy, afraid of offending Jianchen, but she finally relaxed after hearing what Jianchen said. She understood that even though Jianchen had become an existence akin to a sovereign, he had not forgotten about his former friendships. This immediately filled her with joy. Jun Moyan and Wang Yinhong could not help but look at each other and smile knowingly when they saw how Jianchen treated Tianmu Ling as they followed behind her. Back in the gathering of mercenaries, Brother Jianchen, Mingdong, Dugufeng, and I were all Earth Saint Masters. It's only been a few short decades since then, yet Brother Jianchen has already surpassed Saint Emperor. Even Mingdong and Dugufeng have become Saint Kings. Only I have been left behind, the same as before. I haven't even become a Heaven Saint Master, Tianmu Ling sighed dejectedly. The gazes she directed at Jianchen, Mingdong, and Dugufeng were filled with obvious admiration. Jianchen could not help but think back to when he had taken part in the gathering of mercenaries with Mingdong because of what Tianmu Ling had said. His eyes immediately became filled with memories and he said, "Tianmu Ling, you've helped me quite a lot in the past. Don't worry, I'll help you out after this and let you become a Saint King." "Really?" Tianmu Ling's eyes immediately lit up, and she became extremely excited. Jun Moheo and Wang Yinhong both became stunned before becoming ravished with joy. Jianchen's status was now extraordinary, so they did not doubt his words at all. He had allowed several dozen people to become Saint Kings, so they did not doubt his ability to make an Earth Saint Master become a Saint King in a short amount of time. "Jianchen, don't forget that you made a promise to me as well. Whether I can become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master or not will all depend on you." Kara Liwei squeezed over and stared at Jianchen with her beautiful eyes. After understanding Jianchen's temperament, Kara Liwei became bolder. She did not hold back at all. Chapter 1396, A Sealed World, 1. Jianchen had a very good impression of Kara Liwei as well. He treated her as half a friend and chuckled, "Miss Kara Liwei, don't worry. I will definitely keep my promises. I will never go back on them. Once the seal within the artifact space is released and is filled with the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, I will definitely give you a few strands so that you can become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. Then I'll be waiting at the Kara clan, waiting for Sovereign Jianchen's good news." I hope I can use this chance to reach Class 7 successfully and complete my greatest dream. Kara Li Wei smiled sweetly. She was extremely happy after Jian Chen reaffirmed his promise. Jian Chen had gathered a lot of Radiant Saint Force origin energy the last time the seal within the artifact space had been released. He had then given it to the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. He had specifically told him that Kara Li Wei and Quan Yukai had first priority, but Kara Li Wei and Quan Yukai had both failed to break through unfortunately. They had lost a great chance at reaching the 7th class. Although the only requirement for reaching Class 7 was to fuse a single strand of Radiant Saint Force origin energy into a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master soul, to allow the soul to undergo a metamorphosis, this step could not be achieved so easily. Many Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters could not achieve this. Only an extremely limited number of people ever managed to break through. At this moment, Jian Chen's face changed. He shot off into the sky like an arrow, arriving at an altitude of several thousand meters in a single moment. He stared into the distance as he hovered there. His eyes seemed to be able to pierce space and see the ends of the earth. He saw a sword fly over from several tens of thousand kilometers away. It gave off an extremely obscure pulse of energy. The energy pulse was abnormal, where even Saint Emperors would fail to sense it. The sword turned around several tens of thousand kilometers away before shooting off again. It disappeared in a single moment. Jian Chen expanded the senses of his soul, which expanded with great speed. It enveloped a radius of over 200,000 kilometers, catching up to the sword in the blink of an eye. That's the Emperor armament of the Changyang clan. Jian Chen could clearly sense every nook and cranny present on the sword with his soul. He could tell with a single glance that it was the ancestral weapon of the Changyang clan, but the presence it currently gave off was just far, far more powerful than before. The righteous Yang sword seemed to sense Jian Chen's spying, so it suddenly exploded with speed. It shot off into the distance as a stream of light, immediately vanishing as it pierced through space. It escaped from Jian Chen's range of senses. That's not an Emperor armament but a weapon used by Origin Realm experts. It's a saint artifact. Jian Chen thought inside. He was greatly surprised and immediately leaped onto the Zi-Ying sword in pursuit. As his understanding of sword riding deepened, Jian Chen could move at greater and greater speeds. He had surpassed the speed he had displayed in the Sea realm before as he shot off after the righteous Yang sword. Although he had lost track of the sword, Jian Chen could still tell which direction the sword had flown in because of the insignificant marks it left behind in the space. The extreme north was the northern boundary of the Tianyuan continent. It was extremely close to the Northern Sea, and a little beyond the edge of the border, one would no longer be on the Tianyuan continent anymore. It would just be the ocean. A great mountain stood in the lands close to the Northern Sea. The mountain was abnormally grand. It was extremely steep, making it almost unscalable. The highest point was over 10,000 meters above the sea realm with its peak poking into the clouds. Two people stood silently beside one another on the highest point of the mountain. They did not move at all. They stood like statues as they fixedly stared at the depths of the Northern Sea. One of them was a middle-aged, burly man around the age of 40. He was bare-chested and only wore a pair of shorts, revealing his powerful bronze muscles. The other was an old man in his 70s. He had a ruddy appearance and seemed rather sagely. His eyes were extremely deep. At this moment, a sword flew over from afar, headed toward the old man. It moved extremely quickly. However, the old man did not react at all, as if he did not sense the arrival of the sword at all. However, when the sword was 300 meters away from the old man, it drastically slowed down before falling into the old man's hand as a red streak of light and disappearing. He's come much faster than I had expected. Yang Lai, your great-grandson sure is impressive, commented the burly man. The two of them were the founding ancestors of the Changyang clan and the Tyrant's Blade School, Yang Lai and Ge Haidao. A violet streak of light appeared on the horizon as soon as Ge Haidao finished speaking. The violet streak of light was even faster than the sword that had returned earlier. The light was still on the horizon in one moment, yet it had landed on the mountain with unbelievable speed in the next. It possessed an extremely sharp sword chi, turning all the vegetation in a radius of 1,000 meters to dust. The light vanished and revealed Jian Qin. He stood 1,000 meters away from Yang Lai and Ge Haiyidao as he stared at them. He did not feel calm at all. This was because the two people were hazy, like mist to the senses of his soul. They did not seem like they existed at all, which shocked him greatly. Only those who had reached the origin realm could avoid being sensed by his soul. No matter what secret techniques Saint Emperors used, they would not be able to avoid being detected. Jian Qin felt very shocked. When had two origin realm experts appeared on the Tianyuan continent without explanation? This was because in the history of the continent, there had never been rumors of a fifth origin realm expert other than the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. Great-grandfather! Jian Qin subconsciously cried out when he saw Yang Lai. He became stunned and disbelief flooded his face. At that moment he began to doubt his eyes, as if he had seen the wrong person. One of the two mysterious origin realm experts was actually his great-grandfather, Changyang Zhu Yunkong, someone he was extremely familiar with. However, the feeling Changyang Zhu Yunkong gave off was vastly different from before. He seemed like he was someone else. Jian Qin subconsciously rubbed his eyes as he examined the people before him carefully. He found this rather difficult to accept. From what he understood, Changyang Zhu Yunkong was only a saint king at most. Even with his great talent, it would not be possible for him to undergo two major breakthroughs in such a short amount of time and reach the origin realm. Yang Lai turned his head to Jian Qin and his eyes became filled with a gentleness. He smiled benevolently. I never thought that I, Yang Lai, would have such an impressive great-grandson. This has taken me by surprise. Even in the higher world, there are only a few people with talent like you. Jian Qin narrowed his eyes when he heard the man mention a higher world. He stared at Yang Lai fixedly and inquired, "Just who are you?" "I am Yang Lai as well as Changyang Zhu Yunkong. I am your great-grandfather. I founded the Protector Changyang clan, except this current life is a reincarnation. I've awakened my memories now and returned to who I was before," Yang Lai explained. Jian Qin was stunned. He thought over what Yang Lai had just said several times. What he had said was just far too shocking. Even with Jian Qin's mental fortitude, he was completely dumbfounded. Chapter 1397. A Sealed World. 2. Suddenly, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He closely observed Yang Lai and Ge Haiyidao. Under the senses of his soul, the two of them were hazy like mist, as if they did not exist at all. This was a representation of the origin realm, but he suddenly discovered that the two of them were not actually of the origin realm in terms of strength. They were still peak Saint Emperors. Jian Qin could not help but think of the emperor armament of the Changyang clan. He was unable to tell the quality of the weapon due to his limited strength, so he had always believed that the righteous Yang sword was just an emperor armament nourished by Saint Emperors. Only now did he finally discover that it was nothing like an emperor armament. It was the weapon of an origin realm expert. It had reached the level of saint artifacts, equivalent to immortal artifacts from the immortals' world. However, what he found conflicting was that saint artifacts could only originate from origin realm experts. His great-grandfather had reached the origin realm in terms of cultivation, but his strength had stagnated at the level of Saint Emperors. He was unable to make his emperor armament reach the level of saint artifacts. Jian Qin suddenly thought of something. He asked, "Great-grandfather, were you at the origin realm in the past and not a saint emperor as the records say? It's just that you don't have enough time right now, which is why you haven't recovered your strength to the origin realm." Yang Lai smiled. "I never thought that you'd be spot on. Great-grandson, you're right. I used to be an origin realm expert. Except I suffered unimaginable injuries and my cultivation level fell, returning to Saint Emperor. On the Tianyuan continent, there are only records of 4 origin realm experts, which are the strongest human, Mo Tianyun, the winged tiger god, the war god Erjins, and the sea goddess. There has never been a rumor of a 5th origin realm expert. Since you possessed the strength of an origin realm expert in ancient times and experienced a huge battle, which you became heavily injured in, why are there no records of your legends on the Tianyuan continent? Why do people still think you're just a saint emperor after all these years? Jian Chen asked out of curiosity. He found all this information extremely confusing. Yang Lai gently sighed. He stared at the vast sea as a sliver of reminiscence filled his eyes. He only said slowly a while later, "Great-grandson, I did not plan on telling you the reason, but you have the right to know the secret now, so I'll tell you." Jian Chen's interest was piqued. He gathered all his attention to listen. He had already realized that his great-grandfather was probably hiding a huge secret, something ancient that had been buried by history already. "My dear great-grandson, I'm not a person from this world. Gehai Idao and I originated from another world. It was a larger and higher world. All the people who surpass Saint Emperor and reach the origin realm on the Tianyuan continent can proceed to that world. It's called the Saint's World," Yang Lai started to explain. Jian Chen was shocked. He stared at Yang Lai in disbelief. He had already learned about the Saint's World from the Sword Spirits, but he had never thought that the founder of the Protector Changyang clan had actually originated from there. This was nothing close to what he had been expecting. The universe really is filled with endless mysteries. I never thought that there would be an even greater world beyond this one. Jian Chen sighed in surprise and acted like he did not know about the existence of the Saint's World. He then looked at Yang Lai and asked out of curiosity, "Great-grandfather, since there's another world out there, why are there only the two of you that have come down? Aren't there more people?" Gehai Idao glanced at Jian Chen as he stood beside Yang Lai and said, "Do you think that people from the Saint's World can come down as they wish? Powerful people are as common as the clouds in the Saint's World. Let alone the origin realm, there are countless people who have reached godhood, the realm above the origin realm. Any single one of those existences can easily destroy this world if they come down. It's extremely difficult for people of the Saint's World to come down, regardless of strength, including ordinary people. It can even be described as impossible." Gehai Idao's right. Once people of lower worlds have enough strength, they can proceed to a higher one, but if people of higher worlds want to come down, it's extremely difficult. "We ended up here purely due to an accident," revealed Yang Lai. He seemed to be in a slight trance as he thought of the past. Jian Chen remained silent. He stared at Yang Lai and waited for him to continue. "Great-grandson, I may have been an origin realm cultivator in the Saint's World, but experts of the origin realm have no status at all in the Saint's World. It's not as glorious as it is on the Tianyuan continent. If you use the Tianyuan continent as a comparison, the origin realm in the Saint's World would be equivalent to the level of Saint Masters or Great Saint Masters here, or maybe even less than that." Jian Chen already knew the status of origin realm cultivators in the Saint's World, so he did not find this news surprising. However, he did not reveal this secret of his, purposefully behaving as if he was in extreme shock. Yang Lai continued, "I belonged to a small group of adventurers in the Saint's World. There were not a lot of people in the group, only around 50. All of us were at the origin realm, aside from the captain, who was a deity. One time, we all entered a newly opened miniature world in search of treasure, but unfortunately, something important suddenly appeared. It attracted godhood experts very quickly. As they fought, the place became extremely unstable. Huge cracks in space appeared, almost causing the place to collapse. Many people died from the shockwaves of battle, and my entire group, along with many origin realm adventurers of other groups, was sucked into the spatial cracks. We fell into the chaotic streams of spacetime. It was extremely dangerous within the cracks. Even God Kings fell and infinite primes had to move carefully. My entire group, along with over 1,000 other adventurers, were all sucked away. I personally witnessed many people pass away. Even our deity captain passed away. The laws of the world within the spatial crack were chaotic and time was an utter mess. Millions of years could pass in a single moment, and then time would rewind by thousands of years in the next. It was utter chaos in there. There were no colors nor any sense of time. All I could see were people of our group dying constantly inside the spatial crack. Some people were swept away by chaotic streams of time, either aging, rotting, being reduced to a pile of bones, which then turned to dust in the end, or turning into a newly born infant in a single moment before vanishing completely, Yang Lai said with a trembling voice. He was fearful of what he had seen in the cracks of space. Even after countless years, those scenes remained an inerasable shadow in his heart. All of us were filled with fear. We all thought that we'd die in the end, but fortunately, a tunnel to another world appeared within the cracks of space. The exit was not far away from us, so we used everything we had to approach the exit while we were still alive. In the end, we left that damned crack in space through there. Ge Haidao finished the story for Yang Lai. Joy from narrowly avoiding death lingered in his eyes. Chapter 1398, A Sealed World, 3. Jian Chen felt extremely shocked after the story. He had never thought that the founders of the Changyang clan and Tyrant's Blade School would have such a story to them. However, what left him speechless was the fact that his great-grandfather and Ge Haidao had actually come down from the Saints' world after they were sucked into spatial cracks, which were caused by a battle between a few god kings, and had basically arrived at the Tianyuan continent out of pure luck. If it were not for the tunnel that had appeared at the right moment within the crack, his great-grandfather probably would have died there. A total of 10 people managed to survive and make it to the Tianyuan continent. We managed to escape the crack in space successfully, but we were all heavily injured. Not only were the wounds physical, but they affected our souls as well. Because we were just far too severely injured, coupled with the wounds to our souls caused by laws of the world, our cultivation level fell from the origin realm to Saint Emperor. Not all of the 10 people came from my group of adventurers, but we all became best friends. Several decades later, we made a full physical recovery, but the injuries to our souls lingered. Not only was it impossible for us to cultivate any further, but we also had to endure pain from the soul at all times. There was nothing we could do. Fortunately, one of us was a disciple of a large sect. He had been sucked into the disaster when he had left the sect on a journey. He took the risk of being branded as a traitor by his sect and taught us a secret method of reincarnation. Through this technique, the injuries of our souls caused by the laws could slowly be worn away. After mastering the secret technique and before entering reincarnation, we all agreed to create a clan of our own where we would leave the saint artifacts that our bodies had nurtured. We also sealed our memories into the weapons, and to prevent them from being eaten away by time, we purposefully left behind a secret technique that enabled our descendants to nurture the saint artifact with each generation. That was how the saint artifacts could still remain even today after losing their masters. We underwent thousands of rebirths over these years, being reborn and having to recultivate every life, all the way until this life. Only then were the wounds to our souls completely erased. Our saint artifacts sensed us as soon as we became saint kings and rushed over from far away, returning our memories to us and allowing us to return back to who we were. Jian Chen could not help but think back to when Ge Haidao had become a saint king. Back then, he was on a journey to the sea realm with Huang Luan and just happened to come across someone breaking through to Saint King. 7-colored rainbow clouds had descended and the person who had broken through just happened to be Ge Haidao. As he was undergoing his breakthrough, the Emperor armament of the Tyrant's Blade School shot over without anyone's control but allowed Ge Haidao to control the weapon as he wished. At the same time, he thought about how Yang Lai had caused the Emperor armament of the Protector Changyang clan to almost go on a rampage when he had first entered the forbidden grounds of the clan. He had almost caused the miniature world to collapse, and since he almost caused it to collapse, he had committed a heinous crime. Not only was he expelled from the clan, but his talent was also sealed up as well, preventing him from reaching sainthood for his entire life. By the look of things now, the ancestral weapon of the Changyang clan must have sensed that Changyang Zuyunkong was the reincarnation of its master and had fully recovered from the wounds his soul had obtained, which was why it had behaved abnormally then. However, Changyang Zuyunkong was weak back then, still extremely distant from Saint King, which was why the most crucial step did not happen, where the saint artifact would have taken him as a master again and released his memories. Jian Chen secretly felt fortunate when he thought about those events. Changyang Zuyunkong had remained a heaven saint master for 1,000 years and had nearly reached the end of his life. He had also suffered from the seal, experiencing torturous pain every moment he was awake. Only the heavenly enchantress zither music could slightly ease his pain. If he had not encountered Jianchen, Changyang Zhu Yunkong probably would have passed away from old age long ago. Jianchen's hatred for Changyang Qin Yun deepened when he thought about what had happened. They had almost killed their own ancestor. My dear great-grandson, now that you mention it, my life was saved by you. If I had not met you in the final moments, I probably would have passed away and would not have awakened in this life. Yang Lai smiled at Jianchen. He felt more and more affection for his great-grandson. Yang Lai, I cannot be more envious of you because of your impressive descendant, Ge Dao smiled. He meant that statement from the bottom of his heart. At that moment, he yearned for the tyrant's blade school to produce a descendant as extraordinary as Jianchen. Jianchen smiled, feeling at ease. Great-grandfather, can I ask how you plan on punishing Changyang Qin Yun and the others for treating you like that in the past? I didn't find any people from the Qing and Yuan branches in the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints either. Anger immediately flooded Yang Lai's face when he heard that. Don't mention those unfilial descendants. When I had just recovered my memories and stated my identity, those unfilial people actually tried to lay their hands on me despite being of a lower status. How dare they? Ge Dao patted Yang Lai's shoulder and said, Yang Lai, the brutality of the saints' world is far greater than the Tianyuan continent. Can't you look past a few matters given that you've experienced the brutality of the saints' world? It's enough. Let's forget about this unhappy past. Don't forget the main reason why we've called Jianchen over this time. Gui Dao then turned his eyes to Jianchen with interest. Jianchen, we've called you over this time because we have something important to ask you, aside from telling you about us. Please go ahead and ask, Senior. I will answer you with everything I know. Jianchen clasped his hands at them. However, he felt uneasy inside. Yang Lai and Ge Dao came from the saints' world. He wondered if they knew about the secrets regarding the azulate swords. Jianchen, are you a Saint Emperor right now or have you reached the origin realm? Ge Dao asked. He was stern and even Yang Lai looked at Jianchen seriously, as if they cared about the answer of the question a lot. Jianchen was surprised. He had never thought that Ge Dao would ask something like that. After a momentary pause, he said, I should still be a Saint Emperor, but because of the two weapons I use, the strength I can display is greater than what I personally possess. At the same time, I walk a different path of cultivation compared to the people of the Tianyuan continent. I cultivate a power even more powerful than Saint Force, which is why I have the strength of someone from the origin realm. Really? And I had thought that there was someone who could overcome the limits of the seal and reach the origin realm. Looks like you haven't been able to do that either, Gui Dao mumbled. He became rather depressed. Sigh, Yang Lai exhaled gently. He said, and I had thought that hope appeared, but it's just disappointment. Jianchen stared at the two of them in some confusion. He questioned, Seniors, what are you referring to by this sealed world? And what are you hoping for? Ge Dao stared at the sky. His eyes were deep, but they were also filled with helplessness. He said, Jianchen, you may not know this, but this world is actually sealed. An extremely powerful seal exists in outer space, preventing people from reaching the origin realm. As long as the seal is in place, this world will never be able to give birth to origin realm experts. Chapter 1399. Erased History. Back when the 10 of us came to this world, the seal had already existed for countless years. It's been so many years since and the seal still remains. It's stopping all the people of this world from reaching the origin realm. I wonder who cast it down and what their intentions were. It's because of this seal that Ge Dao and I remain at the peak of Saint Emperor and are unable to reach the origin realm, explained Yang Lai helplessly. Jianchen became filled with even more doubt. He said, since you say that no one can reach the origin realm in this world, why did the 4 champions appear in ancient times? And why has an origin realm expert appeared recently in the tungsten alloy mine near Flame City? There were no origin realm experts before we had started our reincarnations. We only learned about the 4 champions from the ancient times after reincarnating. We don't know the exact details regarding the 4 of them either. However, we once visited our clans after regaining our memories to search through their archives and to look into everything that happened in ancient times. Other than the war god Ergens among the 4 champions, there were no records regarding the winged tiger god, Emotianyun, or the sea goddess at all. According to the ancient records, Emotianyun, the winged tiger god, and the sea goddess seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. There were no records of their growth at all. They just appeared with strength at the origin realm, Yang Lai said with heavy emotions. Maybe the 3 of them aren't from this world either and came from a higher world as well? Jian Chen wondered in surprise. However, he had already confirmed that Mo Tianyun came from another world. He did not know much about the winged tiger god from ancient times. That's not very possible, Gray Hai Dao shook his head. After a moment of silence, he said, in this sealed world, there are only 3 ways for an origin realm expert to appear. The first way would be to be stronger than the person who had initially cast down the seal. Then you would be able to directly ignore its existence. The second way would be to be born as a spirit of the world. These spirits possess the strength of the origin realm as soon as they are born. 2 have already appeared, one from Mercenary City and the other being the golden-clothed boy who follows you around. The third way includes being in existence like the war god of the 100 races. The war god is born from the world and is extremely powerful. It is a supreme existence, a being known as the god race in the saints' world. The sea may be powerful, but it is not enough to restrict it. The first possibility can be ignored, and the third possibility is not very likely either because there are just far too few races that are born from the world like the war god. As a result, the second possibility is the most likely one. Why would a person plant a seal to stop people from reaching the origin realm? Jian Chen mumbled. He could not understand the reasoning no matter how hard he tried. He already had a vague idea of who the person was. To him, there was no other person powerful enough other than the mysterious protector Shui of the Arctic ice goddess Hall. The real reason why a mysterious expert would have planted the seal would probably have been to stop people from entering the saints' world. When we first arrived here, we discovered some traces from an era even more ancient than the one we came from. We are certain that there were a few origin realm experts in that era, but they all vanished for some reason. When we discovered these traces, we had a person who had come from a big sect use a secret technique to view the origins of the traces. He searched through time and discovered an extremely shocking piece of news in the end. All the origin realm experts from the even more ancient era had all died due to some reason, but it was not just them. Many saint emperors had died as well. Most of these traces had been secretly erased by someone through a great technique, which is why no news has surfaced. Gehai Dao became extremely stern. This piece of news was extremely horrible for them because they did not know whether the disaster from the ancient era would happen in this era as well. Jian Chen was astounded. The news was just far too shocking. He never would have thought that the world had experienced such a cataclysm before the protector clans existed. It made him shiver inside. Could it be done by her? Jian Chen could not help but think of the protector Shui from the Arctic ice goddess Hall. Her origins were a mystery and she was at least an origin realm expert, possibly even more than that. At the same time, no one knew just when the ice goddess Hall had appeared on the icy tundra to the north. Great-grandfather, Senior, do you know about the Arctic ice goddess Hall? Jian Chen hesitated before making up his mind to ask his seniors. After all, the 2 of them knew very much already. Yang Lai and Gehai Dao both shifted their gazes to the depths of the North Sea. They were currently at the northernmost point of the Tianyuan continent. Close ahead was the Northern Sea, and deep within the sea lay the icy tundra where the ice goddess Hall stood. Yang Lai and Gehai Dao gazed deeply into the furthest reaches of the sea and remained silent. Only a long while later did Yang Lai slowly say, "We knew about the existence of the mysteries in the icy tundra back then. The 10 of us once tried to explore that place, but we were unable to get very far. The place was terrifyingly cold, where even in our peak condition, we would have still ended up as ice statues from the cold. As a result, we left the matter be and never set foot there again. However, the icy tundra had already been labeled as a forbidden zone by us. No one knows the secrets inside. Only when we woke up in this life did we learn the secrets. There is actually an extremely mysterious divine hall hidden there. And while we were reincarnating, the mysterious expert had moved once more. This time, he had gone even more overboard, actually sealing up the origin energy into the very depths of the universe, causing the origin energy on the Tianyuan continent to become thinner and thinner before disappearing altogether. He even disrupted the laws of the world, making breakthroughs even more difficult for people. There's almost no hope of becoming a saint emperor either, Gehai Dao said unhappily. He felt both fear and hatred for this mysterious expert. Chapter 1400. Mastermind Jian Chen secretly snickered inside. He did not know who it was who had cast down the seal preventing Saint Emperors from reaching the origin realm, but he knew what was sealing the origin energy up in the depths of the universe. It was definitely not a mysterious expert trying to prevent people from reaching Saint Emperor. This lack of origin energy was caused by the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. The rock had fallen from outer space and onto Dragon Island, where it was discovered by Mo Tianyun, who moved it into outer space using his great abilities. He created a powerful seal around the rock to seal and lock it in place. However, the rock originated from the birth of the universe and was condensed from the yin and yang qi from chaotic force. Its power was evident, so even after being sealed by Mo Tianyun, it still managed to disturb the laws of the world and absorb the origin energy present. Jian Chen guessed that it was because Gui Hai Dao and Yang Lai were not powerful enough, or maybe Mo Tianyun's seal was just too powerful, which was why they could not see within the seal and understand the truth. This was why they had connected it with the mysterious expert who had ended the ancient era. However, they still gained Jian Chen's admiration for being able to reach such a conclusion. At the very least, the two of them could sense the location of where the Yin-Yang Saint Rock had been sealed within the depths of the cosmos. He was unable to look that far even if he used all his strength. Looks like I still lack in a lot of areas when compared to true Origin Realm experts, even though I have the battle prowess of an expert from the Origin Realm, Jian Chen sighed inside. He had gained an even clearer understanding of the differences between him and true Origin Realm experts like Gui Hai Dao and Yang Lai. Even though Gui Hai Dao and Yang Lai had not recovered their strength, they had already exceeded him by far too much in certain aspects. Suddenly, Yang Lai arrived before Jian Chen in a single step. He stared at him sternly and asked, "Great-grandson, I heard that you visited the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall in the past and saw that girl who was taken there. Is that true?" "That has indeed happened before. Back then, I visited there with Senior Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu," Jian Chen replied with the truth. "Then tell me everything you know." The Arctic Ice Goddess Hall can be described as the most mysterious organization in this world. I suspect that the mysterious expert who sealed up this world is connected to them, said Yang Lai. He was extremely stern. As a result, Jian Chen told him about everything he knew regarding the Ice Goddess Hall without holding back at all. However, he was not sure how strong Protector Shui was. She was definitely an Origin Realm expert at the very least. A gleam of light flashed through Yang Lai's eyes. He said with a heavy voice, "As I had suspected. The mysterious Ice Goddess Hall really does have such an expert." Gui Hai Dao joined in on the conversation. This world has already been sealed for at least 1,000,000 years, making it impossible to break through to the Origin Realm. Origin Realm experts only have a lifespan of 100,000 years, so it's impossible for this Protector Shui to have broken through in the last 100,000 years. Even if we go one step back and even if Protector Shui comes from the ancient era and is still alive now because she is the same as us, undergoing countless reincarnations, it would be impossible for her to reach the Origin Realm in this life. An idea crossed Jian Chen's head when he thought up to that point. He mumbled, "If that's the case, there are only two possibilities regarding Protector Shui's identity. The first would be that she's similar to Xiao Jin and Xiao Ling, which would make her a natural spirit. The second possibility would be that she is the mysterious expert who sealed up this world as well as the mastermind who erased the past." Yang Lai finished off Jian Chen's sentence. His complexion was horrible right now. Jian Chen sucked in a deep breath and said, "If it really is the second possibility, isn't this Protector Shui just far too powerful? She's actually been able to survive since ancient times and even killed off many experts in ancient times. She's definitely committed endless slaughter, so why hasn't she suffered the punishment of celestial decay? If the second possibility is true, Protector Shui's strength would have already surpassed the origin realm and reached godhood. Godhood allows people to break free from the restraints of the world and survive along with the world. It is known as eternal life, so obviously celestial decay won't impact her. And from the power and complexity of the seal that was set down, Protector Shui doesn't just seem to have reached godhood. She seems to belong to the higher boundaries of that realm of cultivation, said Gehai Dao. The gaze he sent toward the depths of the northern sea became laced with fear. Godhood was a dreamlike cultivation realm to them. All the hard work and effort they had put in back in the saints' world was all for reaching godhood, a supreme level of cultivation. This was because the concept of a lifespan still existed within the origin realm. Even those at reciprocity could not change their final lifespan, but once they broke through to godhood, they would have eternal life. However, an extremely large division existed between the two realms of cultivation. The difference was equivalent to mortals and saint emperors on the Tianyuan continent. Despite it only requiring a single step to overcome, it was just far too difficult to take this step. If the seal is not released, we will remain at our current level of cultivation forever, and we will never be able to reach the origin realm. In 10,000 years, we will pass away. We do have the reincarnation method, but it requires origin energy to cast. Although we've stored some origin energy in our saint artifacts, there's not much left now, Yang Lai sighed gently. His eyebrows were furrowed with some worry. Regaining their memories only allowed them to regain their former cultivation. They basically knew all the abilities of origin realm experts, except that their strength would only remain at the peak of Saint Emperor and would not advance any further. If they had not recovered their memories, they could continue undergoing rebirths, but once they reawakened, the reincarnations would stop as well. Great-grandfather, senior, don't worry. As long as I'm here, this seal will be destroyed sooner or later because I walk a different path of cultivation. The seal can stop everyone in the world but me, Jian Chen firmly informed them. His voice was filled with confidence. He was indeed confident, because he cultivated chaotic force. He did not require origin energy to increase his strength, nor did he require the mysteries of the world for his breakthroughs. As long as there was enough energy present, he could smoothly pass through the first 6 layers of the chaotic body. He was currently at the 4th layer and possessed the power to fight origin realm experts. If he reached the 5th or 6th layer, just what level of strength would he possess? Jian Chen still had a large quantity of immortal tier heavenly resources and violet cloud peaches in his space ring. As long as he had enough time, reaching the 5th and then the 6th layer would not be a problem. Coupled with his comprehension tea, comprehending the way of the sword would be a piece of cake for him. He believed that the seal would not be able to stop him if he continued to increase his strength. Once I reach the 6th layer of the chaotic body and make some breakthroughs on the way of the sword, I think I'll be able to fight godhood experts. There's no need to reach sword spirit, just the great perfection of sword origin will be enough, Jian Chen thought inside and swelled with confidence. He was tempted to break through and reach the 6th layer sooner. However, he knew that breaking through was impossible right now. Even with his large quantities of heavenly resources, reaching the 5th and then the 6th layer would require quite a lot of time. He had already consumed a violet cloud peach, so he needed to wait 100 years before consuming a second one. It was also impossible for him to endlessly consume his heavenly resources. If he ate too many in a short period of time, his body would develop a resistance to their medicinal properties, causing their effects to greatly decrease or become altogether useless. The energy crystals of Class 9 Shenhuang beasts did not have any evident effects on him now either. He was better off giving them to the people around him rather than wasting them on himself. Chapter 1401. Another Saint Emperor Jianchen left by himself after bidding farewell to Yang Lai and Gehai Dao. He shot through the sky as a stream of light on the Ziying sword. Jianchen could not help but think through the information he had learned from Yang Lai and Gehai Dao on the way back. He had never thought that there would have been an ancient era even before the ancient times, an era erased from history, an era where many saint emperors and origin realm experts were slain mercilessly. Jianchen found it rather chilling. And that seal in outer space, which prevented all saint emperors from reaching the origin realm, was surrounded in mysteries as well. He did not know who the mysterious expert was. Could it be like what he had guessed, that the mysteries expert was Protector Shui of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall? If that was the case, why did she place the seal there? Was it because she was seeking refuge? Or was she guarding some great treasure? Or were there any other intentions? And why were the winged tiger god from the ancient times and the sea goddess able to ignore the seal and reach the origin realm? Were they really natural spirits like Yang Lai and Gui Haidao had guessed? If that really was the case, then no one could have reached the origin realm from their own efforts since ancient times, aside from the war god Ergens. I agreed with my sister before that I'd visit her a year later in the Ice Goddess Hall. It's already been a year, but I still haven't followed up on my end of the promise. I'll go pay a visit as soon as I deal with the urgent matters at hand. Let's see if I can discover anything, and Senior Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu are still trapped in the north. I must find some way to free them this time I go, Jianchen thought to himself. The three of them had been trapped in the Ice Goddess Hall because of him. If he did not free them, he would end up riddled with guilt, unable to forgive himself. Jianchen did not return to Flame City and instead went to the Changyang clan in Lore City. Jianchen's name had spread across the continent ever since the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints. All the experts claimed him to be the reincarnation of Mo Tianyun. He had taken up the position as the greatest human expert in some sense. His return immediately threw Lore City into a mess. Virtually all the people in the city surged in the direction of the Changyang clan. Countless people wanted to catch a glimpse of the greatest human expert's glory. Just how great was the status as the greatest human expert? Even Saint Kings did not have the right to see him on ordinary days, so to the people of Lore City who dwelled on the lowest levels of the Tianyuan continent, he was like a god. Many people were willing to die an early death just to catch a glimpse of him. The city lord of Lore City immediately reacted. He mobilized all the guards and troops in the city to ensure peace, labeling the area 10 kilometers around the Changyang clan as a forbidden zone. At the same time, all the guards of the clan were mobilized, forming a second wall around the clan. At the same time, this matter reached the ears of the king very soon. The king immediately put down all the matters at hand and quickly flew out of the imperial palace with the assistance of a heaven saint master. Besides him, all the monarchs in the neighboring kingdoms had given up their luxurious carriages and directly requested their heaven saint masters to carry them through the air with rich gifts. They made their way to Lore City as quickly as they could. Not only had Jianchen's arrival at the Changyang clan alert everyone in the surroundings, but it had also thrown the Changyang clan into a mess as well. All the Zhu branch saint rulers who stayed in the back courtyards of the clan lowered their statuses and came to welcome him. Their leaders, to no surprise, were Changyang Zhu Shao, Changyang Zhu Yunshao, and Changyang Zhu Yin. The patriarch of the clan, Changyang Ba, immediately ordered people to prepare a large banquet. He invited his good friends as the whole clan began to celebrate. At the same time, he designated the day as a yearly celebration for the clan. After that, when the king of the Jessen kingdom arrived, he immediately passed on orders to designate the day as a national holiday as well. This day was the first time the young master of the Changyang clan had returned home after becoming the greatest human expert. This day held significant importance for both the kingdom and the clan. Jianchen did not appear a lot during the celebrations. He left his parents and Uncle Chang to handle everything. He secretly passed on messages to search for Huang Tianba, Yang Ling, and so on, requesting them to return to the Changyang clan immediately. At the same time, he got others to contact Jetta Tai, who had already returned to his own clan, and the imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom. The celebrations of the clan lasted for 7 whole days. Within that period of time, the people who had come to visit included quite a few saint rulers, saint kings, and even the grand elder of Mercenary City had come. The entire kingdom had celebrated. This was the first time in history that the Jessen kingdom had ever had such a lively and grand celebration. 7 days later, all the guests left one by one. Huang Tianba, Yang Ling, and Jie Tai had all arrived in the Changyang clan, while the 4 imperial protectors of the Qin Huang kingdom had hurried over from Flame City as soon as they received the news. They had been waiting in the Changyang clan for quite some time now. The next day, Jian Chen, Changyang Ba, Uncle Chang, the king, Huang Tianba, Yang Ling, Jie Tai, the 4 imperial protectors from the Qin Huang kingdom, and every single person of the Zhu branch left the city and arrived in a nearby forest. The disaster of the continent was still not over yet. The threat of the world of Forsaken Saints still lingered, and next time, they would certainly send far more than just 500 Saint Emperors once the tunnel stabilized. There would definitely be Origin Realm experts present as well. As a result, Jian Chen needed to use the resources he had during this upcoming period of time to raise the overall power of the Tian Yuan continent. He needed to prepare for the next time the foreign world invaded. He had obtained a large amount of heavenly resources from the Shenhuang microcosm, but there was not enough to be considered an endless amount. He needed to raise the strength of the people around him first, even if he had to waste a little before considering other people. Although the people around him would not all take part in the battle against the foreign world, the next battle would definitely be even more intense. Without enough strength, just the shockwaves from the fight would be enough to claim their lives. As a result, Jian Chen was not expecting them to make any major contributions to the upcoming battle by raising their strength right now. He only hoped for them to survive. Everyone sat on the floor within the forest. Jian Chen used the highest grade comprehension tea and violet cloud peaches he had on him to raise their strength. The people present were either his family, friends, or someone who had helped him in the past. As a result, he did not hold back at all, sharing the best he had with them. Among them, the king of the Jessen kingdom was the weakest. He was only an Earth Saint Master, but the violet cloud peaches did not have any restrictions. Even ordinary people could consume them. 2 days later, the rainbow clouds descended. Huang Tianba and Yang Ling broke through first. One was a peak 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler and the other was a peak 6th cycle heaven Saint Master, so they were extremely close to the next realm of cultivation. As a result, they both broke through to Saint King and Saint Ruler after consuming the immortal peaches and the tea. On the 3rd day, an extremely tremendous pressure suddenly appeared. It caused the surrounding space to tremble and almost collapse while the energy of the world began to churn. In the sky, a layer of 9 colored clouds quickly appeared. They glowed with an extremely bright light as they enveloped the entire continent. Changyang Zhu Shao had broken through the barrier of Saint King and had become a Saint Emperor. Although the origin energy in the current world had vanished and the laws of the world were a mess due to the Yin-Yang Saint Rock, it did not mean that reaching Saint Emperor was impossible, just extremely difficult. Changyang Zhu Shao was already a Saint King at great perfection and only required a single step to reach Saint Emperor. The 5th grade peaches and tea just happened to provide him with enough to overcome these 2 problems, allowing him to break through successfully in just 3 short days. Chapter 1402, Founding Ancestor of the Pure Heart Pavilion, 1. Someone else had become a Saint Emperor on the Tian Yuan continent after Tianjin and Houston, which immediately caused a great disturbance. Many Saint Kings were attracted over once again, despite the long distance. Soon, several dozen human Saint Kings had gathered. All of them hovered high in the sky as they watched from afar. Eventually, even some Saint Kings from the sea race, the magical beasts, and the 100 races had come. What a dense gathering of energy! This pure energy of the world is extremely similar to the phenomenon that occurred near Flame City a few days ago. If I've guessed correctly, Sovereign Jian Chen should be here, a human expert sighed in surprise. This place may be obscured by the mist-like energy of the world, but what's happening inside still can't escape my senses. I can clearly feel that there's more than one person cultivating in there. Other than the one who has just become a Saint Emperor, there's many other presences, said a blue-robed old man. He was a member of the sea race. He was enveloped by a faint layer of blue light, blocking out the sunlight. How is it Sovereign Jian Chen again? Just how does Sovereign Jian Chen get them to break through so easily? Does he have some heaven-defying treasure? A magical beast said with some obvious envy. His cultivation to Saint King could be described as arduous, yet now, any person who had ties with Jianchen could skip several thousand years' worth of cultivation in just a few days. A few people felt envious because of this. However, even if he had guessed that Jianchen really did possess some great treasure, he would never fancy any ill thoughts. Jianchen was now a supreme expert. He was an existence that could look down on all of them. He was no longer the Saint King from before. The people who follow Jianchen sure are blessed, a lot of people thought. Jianchen had allowed people to become Saint Kings and Saint Emperors time and time again. It left them green with envy and made them wish that they were in the mist instead. Several days later, the forest calmed down. Not only had Changyang Zhu Shao become a Saint Emperor, but Changyang Zhu Yunshao had successfully broken through as well. Among the 3 Saint Kings of the Zhu branch, only Changyang Zuyin remained a Saint King, but she had gone from the first heavenly layer to great perfection. She was close to becoming a Saint Emperor as well. Besides her, Huang Tianba also reached the great perfection of Saint King, attaining a similar level to Changyang Zuyin. Huang Tianba was ravished with joy. His excitement had already peaked. Yang Ling, the guard with ordinary talent who had once protected Jianchen in the City of God, had benefited greatly as well. Not only had his aptitude for cultivation increased, but he had finally smashed through the bottleneck he had been stuck at for many years, reaching his dream level of cultivation, Saint Ruler. He did not stop there either. His strength skyrocketed with the help of the peach and tea, making another major breakthrough in the end. He reached Saint King and stopped at the 2nd heavenly layer. The 4 imperial protectors of the Qinhuang kingdom had all become Saint Kings as well, ranging from the 5th heavenly layer to the 8th heavenly layer. I thank Sovereign Jianchen for your gift. Our wish of many years has finally become true, and we've all reached an unimaginable level of cultivation. The 4 imperial protectors gratefully bowed to Jianchen. Their breakthroughs were significant to the Qinhuang kingdom. After the battle against the world of Forsaken Saints, the strength of the 3 great empires had fallen. They had lost their strongest experts. The Qinhuang kingdom had originally belonged to the Holy Empire as subsidiaries, but with their breakthroughs, the Qinhuang kingdom had suddenly become the strongest kingdom on the continent. Although the kingdom's heritage and overall power was nowhere close to the 3 empires that had existed for countless years, they were unable to match up to the Qinhuang kingdom in terms of Saint Kings. Changyang Ba, Uncle Chang, and the Saint Rulers from the Zhu branch all became Saint Kings as well. Only the king of the Jessen kingdom fell behind. He had reached the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler in the end. All the Saint Rulers of the Zhu branch broke into tears. They thanked Jianchen with runny noses. They were tempted to kneel down in gratitude. The disturbance from this group breakthrough was not as great as the one in Flame City, but it still gave birth to 2 Saint Emperors and almost 20 Saint Kings. It made all the Saint Kings who had come to watch green with envy. A portion of the people had even become hot-headed inside. They wanted to kneel down before Jianchen and plead, begging him for a chance to become greater. They were all Saint Kings and had been stuck like that for many years now. Becoming a Saint Emperor possessed a fatal attraction to them. There were plenty of them who had reached the later stages of their lives. They did not have much time left. The only way for them to continue living was to become a Saint Emperor. Suddenly, Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He turned his head to one direction. The space there distorted and a golden giant appeared out of nowhere. To no surprise, that giant was Tai Ta. Tai Ta did not use a space gate and had instead arrived using one of his innate secret techniques. He had suddenly appeared before Jianchen by crossing a vast distance, like he had teleported. The war god of the 100 races. Tai Ta's arrival immediately caused the experts in the surroundings to cry out. Their eyes were filled with fear and dread, with the magical beasts affected the most. They responded even more violently. Jianchen discovered quite a difference in Tai Ta this time. It was a change in presence. If Tai Ta had been a country bumpkin before, the current Tai Ta was like a ruler. He possessed a certain prestige. Jianchen, can you give me some? I want to help out the 100 races as well, Tai Ta asked rather awkwardly. Jianchen obviously knew what Tai Ta wanted. He chuckled, Tai Ta, I had planned on delivering some to you a few days later. I didn't think you'd come personally. Jian Chen took out a space ring and tossed it to Tai Ta without any hesitation. The space ring was filled with over 100 violet cloud peaches, 10 pieces of 5th grade comprehension tea leaves, and several dozen pieces of 1st grade comprehension tea leaves. There was even a lot of divine water of the world and water from the springs of life for making tea. It possessed everything he needed. Of course, not all the violet cloud peaches in there were of the 5th grade. Jian Chen had only found 3 5th grade violet immortal peach trees in the Xianhuang microcosm in total. The others were all of lower grades. He had used up over 100 5th grade violet cloud peaches within the past few days, almost half of everything he had. As a result, only 1/10 of all the peaches he had given Tai Ta were of the 5th grade. The rest were either of the 3rd or 4th grades. Jian Chen had obtained even fewer pieces of comprehension tea leaves. When he had made tea to increase the strength of this group, he had only used 4 or 5 pieces together. Tai Ta took the space ring. He knew how to prepare the items inside, so he did not ask any questions. Before he left, Tai Ta said to Jian Chen, "I've gone to the War God Hall. It's a very special place and will be extremely beneficial for me. I cultivate several times faster than usual in there, and it can help me comprehend the mysteries of war. Jian Chen, the magical beasts have a Beast God Hall as well. I wonder if it has the same effects as the War God Hall, but according to what I know, it's not a simple divine hall. You should take Xiaobai there when you have the time." "I will," Jian Chen responded. He had heard that the 99th floor of the Beast God Hall possessed the legacy of the previous Winged Tiger God, and only those with the same bloodline could enter it. All he could do back then was sigh in wonder, since he had lacked the ability to go there. In the miniature world of the Pure Heart Pavilion, a tall altar stood in the forbidden grounds. A snow-white duster silently lay on the altar. It gave off a tremendous presence. This was the ancestral weapon of the Pure Heart Pavilion. It had always been stored there, yet today, the duster suddenly began to emit a hazy white light despite not making any abnormal movements over the past million years. The next moment, the light suddenly became extremely intense, illuminating the surroundings. A terrifying ripple of energy shot from it, causing the surrounding space and the miniature world to tremble. Swish. Afterward, the jade-white duster shot off, disappearing into the miniature world. The pavilion master, who was currently tending to her wounds, suddenly changed in expression within a secret room. She immediately charged out and chased after the duster with lightning-like speed. Behind her, 2 more Saint Kings surged over from different directions, pursuing the duster with the pavilion master. Changyang, who was wearing simple robes when he emerged from the divine hall of the Pure Heart Pavilion. He stared in the direction the duster had disappeared off to. The sun, moon, and stars seemed to rotate in his eyes. "I think I see glory. I think I see celebration, an prosperous era." Changyang, who mumbled a while later. Chapter 1403, Founding Ancestor of the Pure Heart Pavilion, 2. 7-colored rainbow clouds loomed over an ancient forest on the Tianyuan continent. They illuminated the surroundings with 7 colors, spanning 1,000,000 kilometers. The clouds represented someone breaking through from Saint Ruler to Saint King and was sensed by many people. It definitely would have been an extremely great matter for someone to become a Saint King in the past and would have attracted many experts on the continent to watch. However, after 9-colored rainbow clouds had appeared time and time again and had enveloped the entire continent, various experts and even some ordinary people had grown used to the clouds. They had become a common occurrence. As a result, the appearance of the clouds did not attract too much attention. This was because this single layer of rainbow clouds seemed just far too insignificant compared to the several dozen layers of rainbow clouds or even the 9-colored rainbow clouds that had appeared. A person currently sat within a cave deep within a forest. Energy pulsed around him, causing the cave to tremble and quite a few rocks to come loose. He was the person undergoing the breakthrough. He had just overcome the bottleneck at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler and successfully became a Saint King. However, before the surroundings could stabilize right after he had broken through, a streak of light shot over from the distance at an unbelievable speed. It stopped above the cave in the end and let out a dazzling but gentle white light. Terrifying pulses of energy emanated from it, filling the entire forest and causing the space there to tremble. At that moment, the forest, which was constantly filled with the roars of beasts, fell silent. Everything descended into a deathly silence. Only now was the item that had been obscured by white light visible. It was actually a jade-white duster. The duster was not actually made from white jade. It only seemed like it was. The jade-white duster hung in the air while its gentle white light filled the surroundings. The world seemed to have become much brighter. After arriving, a powerful energy surged out of the duster and headed down toward the ground. The young man, who only seemed to be in his 30s, remained seated beneath the duster before slowly floating into the air. He was the person who had just broken through. What was unbelievable was that the young man's cave was clearly constructed from rock. A thick stone slab isolated him from the sun, yet he seemed like he had fused with the surrounding rock right now. Not only had he left no mark on the rocks, but he seemed to have fused with them, moving freely through them. The young man floated beneath the jade-white duster. Suddenly, the duster erupted with an extremely powerful energy, which surrounded the young man, though it brought him no harm. From afar, the young man seemed to be encased in a huge cocoon. Soon, a space gate ripped open several dozen kilometers away. The pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion emerged there along with the other Saint Kings. They had reached that location after tailing the Emperor armament. However, when they all saw their ancestral weapon, they all became stunned. "Pavilion master, what is happening?" one of the Saint Kings asked in shock. The pavilion master shook her head. Her eyes were fixated on the jade-white duster. None of them could answer that question. Their ancient archives didn't possess any record of the Emperor armament breaking free from their control. The three of them did not act recklessly. Instead, they waited silently in the distance, because an invisible force from the jade-white duster was currently preventing them from advancing any further. The jade-white duster used its own energy to lock up an entire region of space, and even Saint Emperors would find it difficult to break. The wait lasted several days, and only after those several days did the energy from the duster slowly disperse. The young man guarded by the jade-white duster slowly opened his eyes as well. At that moment, the world seemed to darken slightly. The pavilion master and two other Saint Kings felt dumbfounded. Shock filled their faces. They felt like they had seen a vast universe in the eyes of the young man. They could not help but be absorbed by it, almost losing themselves. The three of them immediately felt astounded. The person before them had just reached Saint King. He was not as powerful as them, but his eyes made them feel like he was much stronger than them. This filled them with disbelief. At the same time up north, on the same mountain as before, Gui Haidao and Yang Lai were staring deep into the sea. However, at that moment, their faces changed, and they suddenly turned in the direction of the duster. An odd light filled their eyes, and in a single movement, the two of them vanished. The pavilion master appeared otherworldly and divine as always. She clasped her hands gracefully and smiled. From today on, the Tianyuan continent has gained another Saint King. This is a joyous occasion. May I ask what your name is? The young man said nothing. He did not even glance at the three people from the Pure Heart Pavilion and instead grabbed the jade-white duster in the air in a single motion. He rubbed it gently in his hands as reminiscence filled his eyes. The jade-white duster was extremely gentle. Despite the unbelievably powerful energy hidden within it, it seemed just like a little lamb right now. The eyes of the three Saint Kings almost popped out of their heads. The jade-white duster had always been enshrined in the forbidden grounds of the Pure Heart Pavilion. People visited it frequently. It was basically a consecrated object of the sect. It was extremely powerful, yet it was currently being wielded by him. The three of them found this difficult to accept. At the same time, the jade-white duster possessed endless might. On any random day, even if they just wanted to use it a little, they needed supreme strength combined with secret techniques to wield it. Yet, the weapon was easily wielded by someone who was not even part of the Pure Heart Pavilion in such an easier manner. Moreover, he wasn't suffering from a backlash either. This shocked them greatly. The Wolf King of Greed, Feng Yixiao, was once my name, but from now on, he does not exist on the Tianyuan continent. There is only Feng Shaun. The young man suddenly replied. He spoke very gently, but his voice seemed to be filled with an endless charm. Sir Feng Shaotian, please return the ancestral weapon of our pure heart pavilion, the pavilion master calmly requested. She could not stand how the consecrated item of her sect was being tarnished by an outsider's hands. After all, it was their ancestral weapon that they had kept enshrined for many years. Feng Shaotian straightened his back while his entire presence suddenly changed. It had become divine. At that moment, he became dignified and awe-inspiring, as if he had transcended the world and stood above all life. I am your founding ancestor. Feng Shaotian sternly responded. His voice was filled with an undeniable prestige. Sir, that's not a joke you can make, a Saint King replied with a heavy voice. He seemed slightly angered that someone would claim that. At this moment, a space gate suddenly ripped open. Gehai Yidao and Yang Lai arrived together. When they saw Feng Shan, they both broke into laughter. Feng Shan, I never thought that you'd awaken after the two of us. So much for being a disciple of a large sect. A strange light appeared in Feng Xiaoyan's eyes. He said, the two of you have really surpassed my expectations, for the two of you awakened before me. Chapter 1404. Meeting Qing Shao again. Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao did not purposefully conceal their presences, so the three Saint Kings from the Pure Heart Pavilion could sense them clearly, which immediately took them by surprise. To their senses, Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao's presences were as vast as the sea. They were boundless, making them impossible to fathom. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent could not make them feel this way. Saint Emperors. Similar thoughts crossed the heads of the three Saint Kings from the Pure Heart Pavilion. Not only had they determined that Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao were Saint Emperors, but they had also noticed that they were even more powerful than the three Saint Emperors of the Beast God continent and the Path Lord of Carnal Desires. However, the Saint Kings soon became filled with suspicion, because the birth of a Saint Emperor on the Tianyuan continent was accompanied by 9 colored rainbow clouds. Even experts far from the continent would still be able to sense them. However, they knew all of the Saint Emperors that had recently appeared on the Tianyuan continent. They knew every expert that had broken through. The three of them were completely clueless as to when Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao had become Saint Emperors. They were just far too abnormal. The pavilion master looked at Yang Lai. She had seen Changyang Zuyun Kong in the past before and actually discovered that this person and Changyang Zuyun Kong looked exactly the same. The only difference was the presence they radiated, which made them seem like two different people. Feng Shan, the seal still exists. You come from a large clan, so the abilities you know are far greater than anything we can fathom. Do you have any ideas on how to deal with it? Gehai Yidao asked. Feng Shaotian immediately became stern. He looked into the depths of outer space and helplessly shook his head. Even you are helpless against it. Looks like we can only place our hopes on my great-grandson, Yang Lai gently sighed. Great-grandson? Feng Shaotian was surprised. He looked at Yang Lai, confused. Yang Lai's face became filled with obvious pride as soon as he mentioned his great-grandson. He said, Feng Shaotian, you probably don't know that I have a descendant with extremely impressive talent. Even in the saints' world, his talent would rank at the very top. In less than 100 years, he has cultivated to a level of strength no weaker than the origin realm. I have to say that Jian Chen's talent really is extremely terrifying. He walks a path that is different than the hard-beaten trail, yet he still demonstrates such speeds, and he doesn't seem to need origin energy to reach the origin realm, so he won't be restricted by this formation. Jian Chen might really be our only hope right now, Gehai Yidao praised as well. He felt admiration from the bottom of his heart toward Jian Chen. An odd expression appeared on Feng Xiaoyan's face. Jian Chen? The captain of the Flame Mercenaries? Correct. My great-grandson is indeed the captain of the Flame Mercenaries. Feng Xiaoyan, I never thought that my great-grandson would be so well known that even you would have heard of him, chucked Yang Lai. Feng Xiaotian's expression immediately became odd. He bitterly smiled. Heard of? I've even seen him in person. What's this all about? Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao were overcome with surprise. I have once met your great-grandson outside of Flame City. If it were not for the fact that someone begged for mercy, this life would have been taken by your great-grandson. Feng Xiaoan forced a smile. Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao were surprised by his words. They looked at one another and shock filled their eyes. They never would have thought that Feng Xiaotian had actually come into conflict with Jianchen in the past. However, Feng Xiaotian's eyes suddenly narrowed before the two of them could say anything else. He said, speaking of which, that Changyang who seems to have entered the realm of great liberation. Feng Xiaoan arrived before the three Saint Kings of the Pure Heart Pavilion and urgently asked, You should know about the realm of great liberation. Have you accepted Changyang who as a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion? Feng Xiaotian's voice was filled with a sense of urgency. He cared about this matter very much. Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao both became stunned when they saw how desperate Feng Xiaotian behaved. They had already spent quite some time with Feng Xiaotian in the past. Their impression of him was that he was always at ease and incorruptible. He had severed his desires and emotions, having transcended mortal affairs. He had never behaved so desperately and urgently before. Changyang who has already been accepted into the sect. He's currently cultivating there, replied the pavilion master. The three Saint Kings had already become rather uncertain of Feng Xiaotian's identity. It was just far too shocking for him to be their founding ancestor, but there was no possible way to explain how Feng Xiaotian was able to wield their emperor armament so easily. More importantly, the three of them could sense a unique presence that would only appear on a disciple of the Pure Heart Pavilion radiating from him. Good. Very good. Fantastic. Feng Xiaotian laughed aloud. He said to Yang Lai and Gehai Yidao, I must immediately return to the Pure Heart Pavilion, so let's catch up some other time. With that, Feng Xiaotian ripped open space with his duster and left. Feng Xiaotian silently appeared in the miniature world of the Pure Heart Pavilion. He did not catch anyone's attention with his arrival. He was the one who had originally carved out this miniature world, so no one was more familiar with it than him. Chapter 1405. Returning to the Qin Huang Kingdom, the Tianqin clan reigned supreme within Walorant City. Without any exaggeration, the entire city was under their control and countless people were honored to become servants of the clan. On any other day, the Tianqin clan would appear like a slumbering primordial beast, quiet but filled with dignity. However, the Tianqin clan was filled with joy today. Even several kilometers away, the cheers and noise from the clan was still audible. The reason was because the clan had received an extremely impressive guest. The arrival of the guest had even made many of the senior members of the clan weak in the knees, causing them to tremble. The clan used everything they had to receive him, treating him courteously and in reverence. To no surprise, the guest was Jianchen. He had come to the Tianqin clan to meet Qin Shao. All the senior members of the clan were startled by Jianchen's personal arrival. Although Jianchen had come to their clans more than once in the past, his status now was incomparable to his past status, so his arrival was just like a dream to all the people in the clan. They were all ravished with joy. When Jianchen met Qin Shao again, Qin Shao had become a much more steady-minded person and more mature. He had already been married and was a father. His wife was a princess of the Zhuya kingdom and had given birth to a son half a year ago. Jianchen could not help but sigh and become filled with mixed emotions when he saw the couple carrying their infant son, because he thought of his own child, Shangguan Aojin. Jianchen and Qin Shao conversed in a pavilion within a garden. Although it had only been a few short years since they had last seen each other, a lot had happened since then. The two of them behaved like brothers who had just been reunited after being separated for several years, so they had an endless amount of things to discuss. They kept talking even after several hours. Jianchen, back when I first met you, our strength was similar, yet now, you've already become a sovereign of the continent. I've even heard the rumor that you are Mo Tianyun from the ancient times. I really feel joy for you and I feel honored to have a friend like you. Jianchen, I know you've suffered greatly in the past. Many enemies hunted you down, and while I really did want to help you, I could not. I was useless. My strength was not even a 10,000th of yours. The other reason was that your enemies only became stronger and stronger. My father worried that I would end up causing a disaster that would end the clan, so he even put me under house arrest in the past. I could not even leave even if I wanted to. Qin Zhao's voice was filled with self-blame and guilt. Back then, he had entered the gathering of mercenaries with Jian Chen at Mercenary City. Jian Chen had saved him from danger time and time again, constantly pulling him back from the jaws of death. However, he was unable to do anything when Jian Chen experienced danger himself. He had been locked at home waiting for any news of Jian Chen. Jian Chen patted Qin Zhao's shoulder to comfort him. He had never taken these matters to heart. The enemies he had offended were either hermit clans, ancient clans, or the 10 protector clans of the continent. Any single one of them could annihilate the Tianqin clan with a flick of their finger. What Qin Zhao's father, the patriarch of the clan, had done was correct, stopping Qin Zhao from taking part in these matters. Otherwise, once his enemies came looking from the Tianqin clan, the clan's name would probably no longer be present in this city. After all, even Flame City had changed owners in the past, having been taken over by the Extinguishing Alliance for some time. If it were not for the fact that the Saint Kings of the Protector Changyang clan had appeared in the end and taken away the people most important to Jian Chen, the outcome would have been unfathomable. Jian Chen took the infant from Qin Zhao's wife. The infant was white and chubby, making him seem extremely adorable. He lay in Jian Chen's hands and stared at Jian Chen with his large, bright eyes. Jian Chen touched the child's face before pulling out a fist-sized amount of divine water of the world from his space ring. He fed it to the child to purify his body. The effects of the divine water were extremely powerful. Not only could the water alter the physique of people and allow cripples to become cultivation geniuses, but it was also extremely beneficial to the soul as well. As Qin Zhao's child was being fed the divine water, his physique was being purified. His talent would be extremely impressive once he grew up, and he would become a dazzling star on the continent. After returning the child back to Qin Zhao's wife, he flew out of the clan with Qin Zhao. Soon after Jian Chen left, the news that the greatest expert of the continent had visited the Tianqin clan spread across the entire kingdom. The news continued further on, beyond the boundaries of the kingdom, without slowing down at all, shocking countless people and catching the attention of many more. Unknowingly, Jian Chen's visit to the Tianqin clan had greatly increased their status. Even the imperial family of the Zhuya kingdom began to curry favor from the clan. Several days later, 7-colored rainbow clouds suddenly descended, enveloping a surrounding radius of 1,000,000 kilometers, making many saint rulers envious. However, these rainbow clouds had appeared just far too frequently recently, so it was now a common sight. As a result, very few people went to check out who had become a Saint King, but most people were not as curious as they had been in the past. Deep within a mountain range several tens of thousand kilometers away, Qin Zhao stood on a cliff as a tremendous presence permeated his surroundings. He seemed rather dazed but also excited. He really found it difficult to believe that Jian Chen had actually helped him become a Saint King in just a few short days, allowing him to stand at the very apex of the continent. Qin Zhao knew what it meant to the Tianqin clan now that he had become a Saint King. The Tianqin clan had already become the leading clan of the 5 most powerful clans in the Zhuya kingdom, but they only had 5 heaven saint masters in total. They did not even have a saint ruler, but now, they had gained a Saint King. After successfully helping Qin Zhao become Saint King, Jian Chen did not return to the Tianqin clan. He said a few things to Qin Zhao before leaving the mountains. His next stop was the Qin Huang Kingdom, one of the 8 great kingdoms on the continent. Jian Chen always grateful for the help the kingdom had provided. If he had not become an imperial protector of the kingdom, which allowed him to lead the elite troops through a space gate to save the Jessan Kingdom, the Jessan Kingdom probably would have been wiped out by the alliance of the 4 kingdoms long ago. He would not have known if the Changyang clan would have still existed. Although the four imperial protectors of the kingdom had made an exception for Jianqin and had allowed him to become the fifth imperial protector because of his talent in attempt to pull him to their side, Jianqin was still unable to forget the assistance the kingdom had provided. He had already helped all the imperial protectors of the kingdom become Saint Kings and had returned his debt, but Jianqin still had another important friend in the kingdom, the third prince, Qin Ji. Aside from Qin Ji, there was also the leaders of the Eastern deity swords, Qin Wujian and his two sons, along with Dongyi Junbai, Qing Shaofan, and the other imperial advisors that had followed him to the Jessen kingdom. Chapter 1406. The fourth-class 9 magical beast Jianquan's arrival naturally shocked the imperial palace of the Qin Huang kingdom. The four imperial protectors who had just returned from the Jessen kingdom, along with the king and a large number of lords and subjects, came out to welcome him. The welcoming ceremony was extremely grand. Aside from the four imperial protectors, everyone else revered him. Jianqin, the king, and the four imperial protectors greeted each other and asked about each other's well-being. Then Jianqin approached the main topic. "Your Majesty, may I ask if the third prince, Qin Ji, is in the palace?" Even though Jianqin was only a junior around the same age as his son, the king responded extremely politely, "Imperial protector, my third son is currently out hunting. I'll send people to call him back right now." "There's no need for your Majesty to be so polite. We've known each other for quite some time. Back then, didn't I trouble you several times? If it were not for your Majesty's assistance, it would not have been possible for me to bring 500,000 soldiers from the Qin Huang kingdom to the Jessen kingdom through a space gate so successfully. Speaking of which, I am indebted to you, Majesty, and I have never forget my debts." Jianqin gently smiled. The king finally relaxed. He knew that the worry he felt earlier was unnecessary. Jianqin's status was very different than before, but he was still the same person. He was not like those other experts who possessed ridiculous pride and viewed their dignity with the utmost importance. The king smiled freely. He immediately stopped restraining himself and began conversing with Jianqin like a good friend. There were 5 Qin heaven palaces within the imperial palace of the Qin Huang kingdom. They were the most consecrated places in the kingdom, because they were the residences prepared for their 5 esteemed imperial protectors. It was also where they cultivated in peace. Jianqin immediately settled down in his own palace as he waited for Qin Ji to return. When he had increased the strength of the 4 imperial protectors, he could have told them to bring Qin Ji with them, but that was not what he chose to do because Qin Ji was one of his best friends. He planned to visit the Qin Huang kingdom personally to see him as well as the imperial advisors who had assisted him and the father and sons at the head of the Eastern deity swords. In the afternoon of the same day, Qin Ji received the news of Jianqin's arrival and hurried back. When he saw Jianqin, he was filled with wonder. No one could have imagined that this brother, who had fought beside him in the gathering of mercenaries, would reach the very apex of the continent, far exceeding himself. Qin Ji did not change much despite the many years that had passed since they last met. Other than becoming even more mature and steady-minded, he now possessed a sense of prestige that was cultivated from being a member of the royal family. However, he was similar to Qin Shao now. He had become a father as well, having married the treasured daughter of a powerful clan within the kingdom. His child was already 3 years old. After Qin Zhao's return, Shao Tian, Tian Luo, Qing Shaofan, Dongyi Junbai, and Chao Kaqin, the 5 imperial protectors who had gone with Jianqin to the Jessen kingdom, all gathered in the Qin Heaven Palace to see Jianqin. The 3 generals of the Eastern deity swords, Qin Wuming, Qin Wujian, and Qin Wujian had all received Jianqin's invitation as well and gathered in the palace. Jianqin hosted a banquet in his Qin Heaven Palace, receiving these guests with wonderful liquor. They all toasted to each other before downing a glass. Jianqin discussed everything that had happened in the past with them, without appearing like the strongest human expert at all. After a period of time at the table with Jianqin, they all understood Jianqin's temperament one by one. They had all started off the evening being cautious before gradually letting loose. "Imperial Protector, I knew even back then that you would become a great person on the continent. In the end, after only these few years, you've become the strongest person on the continent. You have my praise and admiration. This imperial protector has supreme talent, an unprecedented prodigy. On the Tianyuan continent, you're known as the reincarnation of Mo Tianyun. I may not know whether that's true or not, but I do believe that you will surpass Mo Tianyun sooner or later and become the greatest sovereign throughout history. After becoming slightly tipsy, there was nothing this group would not talk about. Jian Chen's guests had forgotten that they were in a Qin Heaven Palace, one of the most dignified and consecrated places in the kingdom. On any other day, they would not even gain the privilege of entering a Qin Heaven Palace as imperial advisors. Unknowingly, the sun had set in the west and night descended, filling the entire world with darkness. Deep into the night, Jian Chen took the group of them out of the imperial palace and found a quiet place to increase their strength. Several days later, including Qin Ji, they all become Saint Kings. Every single one of them was ravished with joy. Before he left, Jian Chen gave some divine water of the world to Qin Ji as a little gift for his son. This is just unbelievable. Imperial Protector Jian Chen has actually allowed all of us to break through to Saint King in just a few short days. The Imperial Protector really is extraordinary. We're only subordinates to him, yet he has never forgotten the things we did for him in the past. He gave us such precious heavenly resources without holding back at all. The Imperial advisors, Qin Wuming and so on, all sighed emotionally after Jian Chen left. They stood silently as they gazed in the direction that Jian Chen had left in. They did not leave even after quite a while. Jian Chen flew toward the ocean on the Ziying sword as a stream of light after his trip to the Qin Huang kingdom. He had met with Qin Shao and Qin Ji, and they had both become fathers, which touched Jian Chen's heart. He thought of Shangguan Aojian, who was on the distant Three Saint Island. It had been several years since he had last seen Shangguan Aojian. He was not a good father, nor did he have any idea how Shangguan Aojian was doing. At this moment, Jian Chen's face changed. He immediately stopped the Ziying sword and a golden light shot from the center of his forehead. It was a tiny golden tower. With a golden flash, the gold-robed, golden-haired newbies emerged. He remained in a seated position with his eyes closed as he glowed with a golden light. Terrifying pulses of energy surged from him, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Newbies has actually broken through. Jian Chen was overjoyed. A fourth-class 9 magical beast was about to appear. Newbies caused a great disturbance as he broke through to Saint Emperor. His dazzling golden light illuminated the night sky, dyeing the surroundings golden. Above him, a wave of essence surged high into the sky, condensing into a golden snake as it broke through the clouds. The phenomenon caused the clouds to violently surge while flickering lights appeared between the clouds. Chapter 1407, Shangguan Aojian's Transformation. 1. The space trembled violently as terrifying waves of energy, visible to the eye, rolled away. They expanded in all directions with newbies at the center, shattering the space around him and causing it to alternate between darkness and a golden color. A terrifying, tremendous pressure filled every inch of the surroundings. The space seemed to be crushed under the pressure, as if it had become even tougher now. In the sky, the golden snake that had taken form from Newbie's essence moved through the clouds. It absorbed the energy in the surroundings, causing the energy in the region above the ocean to surge toward him. The snake seemed like a bottomless hole. It devoured the energy of the world endlessly, but at the same time, it became even more dazzling and resplendent, illuminating the surroundings even more. Jian Chen watched Newbie's breakthrough from afar. The disturbance from Newbie's breakthrough was far greater than any other experts. He understood that his breakthrough this time would be a very important metamorphosis. Newbie's was a beast of antiquity. He could evolve unlike humans. If he devoured the essence of his clansmen, of other golden-striped silver snakes, his own essence would become even more powerful and pure, even leading to unknown changes in the future. Newbies had only consumed the heavenly resources collected in the Xianhuang microcosm for his breakthrough this time. Ignoring their value and scarcity, just the heavenly resources themselves possessed Xianhuang Qi, something that was filled with wondrous uses. The Xianhuang Qi could not be absorbed by anyone, but the heavenly resources that had been soaked in it would become even more powerful and reach an even higher grade. After consuming the heavenly resources, Newbies had clearly benefited, allowing his essence to undergo a metamorphosis. The glistening essence absorbed a large amount of energy and was finally satisfied. After that, it shot through the sky as a golden streak of light, disappearing into the top of Newbie's head with another flash of light. Newbie's vital energies immediately underwent an overwhelming change after the return of his essence. His bearing became dignified while he gave off a tremendous pressure unknowingly. Compared to before, he now possessed the faint bearing of a ruler. Newbie's breakthrough caused a huge disturbance, but it finished much faster than breakthroughs of humans. He had completed the process in a very short amount of time. The golden light on Newbies gradually vanished, and so did the light that illuminated the surroundings. Only a blanket of 9-colored rainbow clouds filled the sky. Jianchen arrived before Newbies and said, "Newbies, congratulations on becoming a Saint Emperor, the 4th Class 9 magical beast." Newbies' face was filled with obvious excitement and joy. He felt the seemingly endless amount of energy within him and could not help but laugh at the sky. He said, "I never thought that there would be a day when I, the great Newbies, would become a Class 9 magical beast. It's been over 100,000 years since a Class 9 magical beast has appeared for the golden-striped silver snakes. In this period of time, I am the only one who has reached Class 9. Newbies wildly yelled as he let himself go. Back when he was still a saint ruler, his greatest dream had been to become a Class 9 magical beast. He had not even considered the 9th class since the ancient times were long gone. It was extremely rare for Class 9 magical beasts to appear. As a result, Newbies only treated the 8th class as his target, devoting his life to achieving it. Now, not only had he become a Saint King in an extremely short amount of time with Jianchen's help, but he had even stepped into the realm of Saint Emperors at an unbelievable speed. He felt like he was in a dream. "Jianchen, following you was the greatest decision I have ever made in my life. I believe that if I continue to follow you, I will be able to surpass my seniors without much time passing and reach Class 10, Newbies chuckled aloud. He was overjoyed. Jianchen smiled slightly. "Newbies, don't worry. I believe your wish will become true soon enough. You might even go far beyond that." Haha. Newbies laughed from the bottom of his heart. An odd light flickered through his eyes because he had just remembered about the beast god continent. There were also golden-striped silver snakes there. The golden-striped silver snakes were beasts of antiquities and a powerful species, but also an extremely brutal one. They did not have many clansmen at all, and using the description of mythical would be apartment. As soon as they came across another clansman, there would definitely be a slaughter. They would try to devour each other's hidden essence in order to transform or evolve. This was the same thought that Newbies currently had. "Jianchen, I'll be visiting the beast god continent first. I'll be back very soon." Newbies was rather eager. Back then, he was not strong enough, so the beast god continent had always been a forbidden place to him. With his understanding, the old snake on the continent had reached Class 8 long ago, so he was nowhere close to being that old snake's opponent when he was just a saint ruler. He always hid in the outskirts of the Cross Mountains on the Tianyuan continent and cultivated in peace, rarely appearing outside at all so he could avoid being found. However, he had become a Saint Emperor now. That old snake would no longer pose any threat to him. Once he devoured the hidden essence of that old snake, his own essence would become even more powerful. "I'll be going to 3 Saint Island. Come look for me there once you return," said Jianchen. 3 Saint Island, an odd gleam of light flashed through his eyes before he agreed straightforwardly. He said, "All right, I'll immediately come look for you on 3 Saint Island after I deal with that old snake on the beast god continent." Back then, that goddamn island mistress or something like that had scared me into hiding every time I saw her with her soul attacks. Now that I've become a Saint Emperor, my soul has become greater. Her zither won't harm me at all. When the time comes, I'll show her what's good and get back my dignity. An odd expression immediately filled Jianchen's face when he heard that. He chuckled aloud. I just happen to be planning on spending some days on the island. I'll be waiting for you there. Jian Chen and newbies separated. One made his way for Three Saint Island while the other headed to the Beast God continent. Chapter 1408, Shangguan Aojin's Transformation. 2. The endless blue ocean was calm at daybreak. The surface of the ocean seemed just like a neat blue blanket where it connected with the sky. A huge red disk began to slowly rise from the horizon. It radiated with a warm, golden sunlight, dyeing the blue sea a golden hue. The light was resplendent and dazzling. A small island stood all by itself in the vast, endless sea, far from the Tianyuan continent. A few simple fishermen entered and exited the harbor on the island on their fishing boats, which were created from wood and metal. They were making preparations for a day out at sea. Close to the island stood a 300-meter-tall stone tablet. The tablet seemed to have formed naturally, not even constructed from individual pieces of rock. On the tablet were 3 majestic words, Three Saint Island. This was the Three Saint Island where the heavenly enchantress stayed. There was a small city on the island, which was completely occupied by the native fishermen of the island. They made a living from fishing when they were not cultivating. Overall, they were not powerful at all. Aside from the saintesses of the mountain, there were no saint rulers. The saintesses that stayed on the mountain possessed an extremely reversed status on the island. They were like gods to the fishermen, consecrated and divine. The people of the island would often bow toward the mountain out of sincerity. At this moment, a figure silently appeared on the edge of the island. He seemed to have fused with the surrounding space, making it difficult for someone to discover his existence. The weaker people would not notice him even if they glanced at him. The person was not very old. He wore white robes and only seemed to be in his 20s. He was handsome, elegant, and possessed an extraordinary bearing. His face was resolute and stern from having gone through thick and thin. However, the most eye-catching thing about him were the 2 swords on his back. One of them glowed with a faint violet light while the other glowed with a faint azure light. The 2 swords were not in scabbards, nor were they tied to him by any rope or string. They seemed to be stuck to the young man's back, preventing them from falling off. To no surprise, this person was Jian Chen. He floated high up in the air as he gazed down. He stared at the huge stone tablet for a while. The island had a tablet the first time he had come here, but the one right now was larger than before. Clearly it had been replaced. In just the blink of an eye, I've been away from Xiaobao for several years already. I wonder how he has cultivated the chaotic body, Jian Chen thought. His longing for his son became even more intense after arriving above the island. He concealed his presence as he flew toward the mountain in the distance. Jian Chen did not use the senses of his soul. He was both excited and in high spirits. He wanted to use his eyes to see his son first. A 10-meter-tall gray boulder stood silently on the edge of a cliff on the mountain. A boy who seemed only around 10 sat on the rock with his eyes closed. He circulated the energy of the world. Beneath the boulder was a cliff face several thousands of meters tall. The boy was more courageous than any ordinary person. He was young, but he sat there steadily without any fear. A visible stream of white air surged with his breathing near his mouth and nose. Extremely pure energy of the world condensed around him, entering and exiting his pores with the rhythm of his breathing. Every breath the boy took would resonate with the energy of the world in a certain range. All his pores were open as he accepted the purification from the energy, cleansing every impurity within him and leaving behind what he was born with. A woman in a purple dress stood behind the boy. She carried a zither and her beauty seemed to even overshadow many goddesses. She gave off an otherworldly feeling, making her seem like a fairy from heaven. She was the heavenly enchantress, but her strength had already far exceeded Saint Ruler. She looked at the boy with gentle affection. In reality, she stood near the boy every time he cultivated, fixated on the boy, unless she was not present on the island. She seemed to fear that the boy would come across some danger. At this moment, the heavenly enchantress' face changed. She suddenly turned in a certain direction and the gentleness in her eyes quickly disappeared. It was replaced with coldness, making her seem like an unapproachable glacier. At the same time, the cultivating boy suddenly opened his eyes as well. His eyes lit up while he stared into the distance with joy. He exclaimed, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy's here?" The boy was extremely excited, standing up on the rock in a single movement. He stood on the rock as he pointed into the distance, jumping up and down as he cried out. He was overly excited, causing his little face to become flushed. Jianchen slowly flew over from afar. He did not move fast at all. He just smiled as he approached the island. "Daddy, you've finally come back. I've missed you so much. I think of you every day." Jianchen landed on the ground and Xiaobao leaped off the boulder. His small body possessed extraordinary agility, and he glided several dozen meters before hitting the ground. He then clung onto Jianchen's waist. Xiaobao had grown quite a bit. He was 1.5 meters tall, already taller than Jianchen's waist. Jianchen hugged Xiaobao. He was so excited that he became speechless. The cold-blooded him also had a soft side. "Why have you come?" The heavenly enchantress kept her eyes on Jianchen as she impolitely inquired. She did not seem to welcome Jianchen from her gaze. Jianchen looked at the heavenly enchantress and warmly smiled. "Xiaobao's my child too. As his father, of course I came to see him." Pausing a little, Jianchen continued, "I know I owe Xiaobao a lot for all the years I have been gone. I haven't taken up the role of a father. I'm not a responsible one, but I will make up for what I have done as much as I can. Xiaobao is my second chance at life." "Master, have guests come to our island? Which island master or sect master has come to visit? There sure are a lot of people who have come to visit you within the past few days." At this moment, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu's voices rang out. They currently made their way over with Qin Qin. Chapter 1409, Shangguan Aojin's Transformation, 3. Jianchen is here as well. The three ladies discovered Jianchen as soon as they glanced over. They were surprised. However, the gazes they used to look at Jianchen became mixed. Even calling him by his name sounded rather awkward. Jianchen had exposed his relationship with Xiaobao the last time he had come to the island, allowing the three of them to learn that Xiaobao was the son of their master. This took the three of them by shock and disbelief. Even now, they did not know how to refer to Jianchen. Did they have to refer to him as Master Jianchen, like in the past, and treat him as any other guest, or did they have to call him master-in-law? However, the three of them still did not know that Jianchen was no longer the same person they had once knew. He had not changed in appearance or temperament, but his strength had undergone an overwhelming change. He had become the greatest human expert and was known as the second Mo Tianyun by everyone. Some even called him an incarnation of Mo Tianyun. It's been quite some time. "Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, you look even better than before." Jianchen greeted the two of them with a smile before turning his eyes to the young lady of the Tianqin clan, Qin Qin. He said, "Miss Qin Qin, you've already left home for close to 10 years. 10 years is not a short amount of time to your family. Your family members miss you dearly. If you have the time, you should go back and visit them." Jianchen had passed this on for Qin Shao. When he had caught up with Qin Shao back in the Tianqin clan a few days ago, he had learned that Qin Shao had thought about his sister for many years now. Unfortunately, his low strength had prevented him from traveling very far, so he could only keep that thought on hold. Even though Qin Shao had become a Saint King now and had gained the ability to use space gates so that he could visit any place on the continent, Jianchen had forgotten to tell Qin Shao the location of the island. It would be extremely difficult for a Saint King to search for a tiny island in the vast ocean without knowing its precise location. The ocean could be found in all 4 cardinal directions as well, and it was far vaster than the continent. The phase Qin Qin was using to look at Jianchen with became extremely mixed the moment she saw him. Her thoughts were a complete mess. Only when she heard Jianchen mention her family did she manage to gather some thoughts together. She said with some reminiscence and sorrow, "Master Jianchen, is my father and everyone else well?" "They are very well. The Tianqin clan is like the midday sun right now. They have already become the leading clan of the 5 great clans in the Juya kingdom, only second to the imperial family. And right now, the Tianqin clan's name has probably already spread across quite a bit of the continent, being ranked as one of the most powerful clans on the continent. Jianchen discussed the current situation of the Tianqin clan and told her everything he knew, including how Qin Shao had become a father. However, he did not mention that Qin Shao had become a saint king. Qin missed her family, but she was clearly preoccupied. She did not pay attention to the news that the Tianqin clan's name had become renowned across the continent. She fell silent after learning that her family was fine. She glanced past Jianchen and Xiao Bao in a slight daze and remained quiet. The heavenly enchantress glanced at Qin before saying to Jianchen, "You've seen Xiao Bao, so it's time for you to leave." The heavenly enchantress' voice was cold. She directly told Jianchen to leave, finding his presence unwelcome. Jianchen produced a dry cough. Just when he wanted to say something, Xiao Bao clung onto him tightly and said instead, No, I don't want Daddy to go. Daddy isn't allowed to go. Mummy, I don't want Daddy to go. Xiao Bao, listen. The heavenly enchantress sternly demanded in a deep voice. However, the gaze she directed at Xiao Bao still bore the presence of affection. No, I don't want to. I want Daddy. I want Daddy to stay with me. Daddy hasn't come to visit me in a long time. I miss Daddy. I want Daddy to stay here with me and Mummy. Xiao Bao, who always listened to the heavenly enchantress, had actually turned his back on the heavenly enchantress without any hesitation at that moment, as if his father, who he had not seen for many years, was much more important than his mother, who stayed by his side and loved him at all this time. The heavenly enchantress' chest rose and fell slightly, clearly angered. At the same time, she felt helpless inside. Including today, Xiao Bao had only met Jianchen 3 times in total ever since he had been born. Each meeting did not last very long either, but Jianchen seemed to hold an extremely important position in Xiao Bao's heart. Xiao Bao's feelings for Jianchen had not become diluted with time. You leave first. The heavenly enchantress waved her hand and dismissed Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu looked at each other before backing off with Qin. They all left together. After they departed, Jianchen carefully examined Xiao Bao. He focused on Xiao Bao's strength and discovered that his body was extremely tough even though he had not reached the first layer yet. He had built a solid foundation for cultivating chaotic force. This time, I will spend a few days on 3 Saint Island and specifically guide Xiao Bao with his cultivation. Xiao Bao possesses the innate chaotic body. He cultivates chaotic force and walks a cultivation path different from the norm. You do not understand this path, but it just happens to be the one that I've taken as well, Jianchen explained. This time, the heavenly enchantress did not say anything. She stared at Xiao Bao before drifting away after quite some hesitation. She vanished off to the other side of the mountain. Oh yay! Daddy's finally spending time with me. Xiao Bao cheered when he heard that Jianchen would be staying for some time. After that, Jianchen casually carved out a cave in the mountain to serve as a place where the 2 of them could stay. The cave was not very big, but it was very wide. Jianchen placed a large number of luminous pearls in the dim cave. Every single one of them let out a gentle light, making it seem like daytime in the cave. In the cave, Xiao Bao sat down and began to cultivate under Jianchen's guidance. The 2 swords on Jianchen's back shone with a faint glow. The light from the swords vaguely condensed into a young man and woman. They paid close attention to Xiao Bao as he cultivated. Beside Xiao Bao were a lot of peeled skins and other useless waste that came from heavenly resources. Although Xiao Bao possessed the rare innate chaotic body, which possessed endless potential and guaranteed a glorious future, there was a heavy price behind such glory. That price was the tremendous requirement of energy for cultivation, which would greatly exceed any person's imagination. The normal chaotic body was like that, and the innate chaotic body did not make an exception. Because chaotic force was just too powerful, the amount of energy of the world on the Tianyuan continent required to form a single strand of pure chaotic force probably could not even be described as tremendous. As a result, a vast requirement of low-level energy like the energy of the world would be needed to create the chaotic body. The chaotic force cultivated by Xiao Bao's innate chaotic body would not be true chaotic force either. True chaotic force could be divided into yin and yang and could create an entire world. It could also destroy a universe and throw laws into chaos. It was powerful and terrifying. Only this was true chaotic force. According to the sword spirits, no one had ever cultivated it successfully. Even though Xiao Bao possessed the innate chaotic body, the chaotic force cultivated by him would be much weaker than true chaotic force. It would need to be strengthened and transformed step by step. Chapter 1410, Shangguan Aojin's Transformation. For, even though that was the case, the innate chaotic body still possessed huge advantages over the normal chaotic body. First of all, its growth speed was much quicker. Secondly, the chaotic force used by the innate chaotic body was much purer and more powerful than the normal chaotic body. Thus, the innate chaotic body would dominate the normal chaotic body if they were on the same level. The innate chaotic body reigned supreme when the levels were the same. Lastly, and more importantly, the future achievements of the innate chaotic body were incomparable to the normal chaotic body. Cultivators of the normal chaotic body had never reached the ultimate realm of cultivation and probably never would, but that was not necessarily the case for someone with the innate chaotic body. The innate chaotic body was a perfect, natural creation while the other one was sculpted by external forces. The sculpted body was coarse and flawed with a limited future. It would be extremely difficult to reach a supreme realm of cultivation with it. Jian Chen sat before Xiao Bao and remained fixated on him. Xiao Bao was currently devouring heavenly resources to forge his chaotic body. Although he had always devoured the heavenly resources and monster cores that Jian Chen had left for him to forge his body, he had still not reached completion. After all, the energy needed to be refined into chaotic force. Then the chaotic force would fuse into his organs and his flesh and blood, allowing his body to strengthen altogether. After absorbing the chaotic force he had refined, Xiao Bao's body began to shine with a hazy glow. His body seemed to have become enchanted, becoming abnormally powerful and almost immune to weapons. The cultivation steps of the innate chaotic body was somewhat different than Jian Chen's normal chaotic body, but there was one aspect that was completely the same, which was the first step, forging the body. Several hours later, Xiao Bao roused from his cultivation. He beamed with joy. "Daddy, I can feel that I'm almost done forging my body. It's like it's almost full. Keep cultivating. You may possess the innate chaotic body, but you still haven't properly begun cultivating it. Only after forging your body can you cultivate chaotic force, and only when you can use chaotic force in battle have you truly begun the cultivation process. The sword spirits just happen to be here today, so you can ask them if you come across any problems or difficulties," said Jian Chen. Although he loved Xiao Bao dearly as well, he was extremely strict in regard to his cultivation. Jian Chen had understood the importance of strength long ago after having experienced slaughter time and time again on the Tianyuan continent. It was very difficult to last very long without great strength. It was impossible for him to be around Xiao Bao at all times. They would end up separating sooner or later, and at that time, all the dangers Xiao Bao would face would have to be resolved and dealt with by his own strength. Allowing Xiao Bao to do what he wished right now would be equivalent to cutting off his future, cutting him off from his future glory. Xiao Bao nodded and pulled out around a dozen 1,000-year-old or 10,000-year-old heavenly resources from his space ring. He began cultivating once again after devouring a few of them. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Bao had already been cultivating in the cave for several days. During those days, he had consumed a large amount of heavenly resources and high-class monster cores. Only a small fraction of what Jian Chen had originally given him remained. On this day, Xiao Bao's chaotic body was completely forged. The chaotic force he refined was no longer used to strengthen his body and instead slowly moved through his body like streams. It never stopped moving, as if it had become a second type of blood for Xiao Bao. With your body as the furnace and your soul as the flame, use the power of the world to start the furnace, and once it is complete, use it to refine the medicine. The medicine remains in the furnace, nourishing the furnace. The furnace refines the medicine, and the medicine keeps the fire blazing. Father, have I properly gained the chaotic body now? As soon as the medicinal effects were absorbed, Xiaobao opened his eyes and beamed with excitement. Keep going, don't stop. Using the medicine to keep the fire blazing is only an important start. Jianchen said nothing. It was Zi Ying's stern voice instead. His eyes were filled with excitement. Today, he was about to personally witness an owner of the innate chaotic body properly step upon the path of cultivation and succeed under his guidance. Xiaobao immediately dismissed his thoughts. This time, he devoured all the heavenly resources in a single breath while holding 2 Class 8 monster cores in his hands. Vast energy leaked out after devouring so many heavenly resources. The energy immediately caused Xiaobao's body to swell and bulge in size. If it had been any other person, they probably would have exploded long ago and died, but Xiaobao's chaotic body was already extremely powerful. It was equivalent to Jianchen's chaotic body at the first layer. With just his body, he could emerge unscathed from the direct attack of a third heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Although the energy in the heavenly resources was powerful, it was not enough to cause Xiaobao's body to explode. Xiaobao began to refine the energy with all his effort, causing his bulging body to gradually recover its original shape. During this period of refinement, Xiaobao took a total of 2 days. After that time, the chaotic force within him had changed from small streams into a river, which circulated through every part of his body. It did not gather in his dantian, leaving it empty even now. At the same time, a faint gas would float out and fuse into his soul with every revolution of the chaotic force. His soul was currently undergoing a quantitative increase. To refine the medicine with the furnace and to have the medicine keeps the fire blazing, chaotic force was the medicine while the fire was the soul. As the chaotic force circulated within his body, it nourished his soul as well, making it become even more powerful. While cultivating chaotic force, Xiaobao was cultivating his chaotic body and his soul as well. The 3 of them remained in balance throughout the whole time. Only the innate chaotic body could achieve this. Jianchen was only able to cultivate 2 of them together. Xiaobao's soul had not condensed before and still lingered throughout his body, but at this very moment, under the nourishment of the chaotic force, his soul was strengthening at an unbelievable pace. It had gradually morphed and condensed. A free, condensed soul was the symbol of a Saint Ruler on the Tianyuan continent. Only those who had reached Saint Ruler could condense their soul. They would never die unless their souls were wiped out. That was just a literal translation of a common occurrence of souls in Chinese novels. A normal soul is bound to the body and will die with the body, as seen with Heaven Saint Masters. When they are freed and able to move independent of the body, they are the souls of a Saint Ruler. In other novels, this stage may be called nascent soul. The Chinese characters for soul in Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers are different, but they both mean soul from an English point of view, kind of like something you can't really translate. As a result, I will keep both of them as soul, but I will describe one of them as condensed when there is a need to identify the 2 types of souls, so condensed will be used instead of origin soul since assigning names makes things more complicated than they need to be. The moment Xiaobao condensed his soul, Jianchen narrowed his eyes. He discovered that Xiaobao's soul was unique. Everyone else's soul was white, but his was extremely odd. It was chaotic. It did not seem to possess any color, but it also seemed to bear all the colors in the world as it shone with dazzling light. Chapter 14:11 Newbie's Scheme. Xiaobao's soul is different than mine, but I feel like his soul is much more powerful than an ordinary person. Even mine cannot compare to his, Jianchen thought. Jianchen wondered if it was one of the differences between the innate chaotic body and the normal chaotic body. The normal chaotic body cultivated chaotic force as well, but there were many aspects that could not compare to the innate chaotic body. The normal chaotic body's only advantage was that there were quite a few people who could practice it. There had always been practitioners of the normal chaotic body in the immortals' world. The normal chaotic body only required chaotic force to modify and morph it. The innate chaotic body rarely ever appeared at all. Although the creation of a normal chaotic body seemed easy, there were not many people who could succeed. There were countless prodigies who wasted themselves on this path of cultivation because not everyone could use chaotic force to modify themselves. Jian Chen had learned all this from the sword spirits. The medicine keeps the flame blazing. Daddy, I've done it. Have I properly stepped onto the path of cultivation? Xiao Bao roused from his cultivation and his eyes immediately lit up. His face was filled with excitement. Jian Chen finally smiled when he saw how excited Xiao Bao was. His face was filled with relief. Xiao Bao had truly embarked on cultivating the chaotic body. His strength was equivalent to the first layer of Jian Chen's chaotic body, allowing him to fight saint rulers. At the same time, he had condensed his soul. A condensed soul was the representation of a saint ruler. Even though he walked a different path of cultivation and did not comprehend the mysteries of the world, his true strength was even slightly stronger than when Jian Chen was at the first layer. This was all because of his innate chaotic body. Xiao Bao had not even reached 10 years old yet. If the news that he possessed the strength of a saint ruler was broadcasted, it would definitely shake the entire world. This was because many people had only just begun cultivating at this age. They were working hard on condensing their saint weapons to become a saint. The heavenly enchantress entered the cave. She did not even glance at Jian Chen, placing all her attention on Xiao Bao. A sliver of joy flashed through her eyes when she sensed how Xiao Bao's presence had become countless times more powerful than before, but the joy was hidden very soon. Jian Chen knew that the heavenly enchantress had always been secretly watching over Xiao Bao, because she could not stop worrying about him. She showed her love for Xiao Bao very rarely, but it came from the bottom of her heart. Jian Chen removed a large amount of heavenly resources, the ones he had obtained from the Xianhuang microcosm, and Class 8 and 9 Xianhuang beast energy crystals. He gave them all to Xiao Bao so that he could continue cultivating. Jian Chen was dissatisfied with Xiao Bao's strength at the level of Saint Ruler. He did not know when the world of Forsaken Saints would attack again, but there was one thing he was certain about. The next time they attacked, the combatants from the foreign world would definitely be even more terrifying. The battlefield might even engulf the entire planet, and Saint Emperors may not be able to protect themselves. As a result, Jian Chen needed to do everything he could to increase Xiao Bao's strength in the time he had in an effort to make him even stronger. Jian Chen then took out some divine water of the world, a 5th-grade violet cloud peach, and some comprehension tea leaves and gave them to the heavenly enchantress. He then explained their usages to her. The heavenly enchantress walked another path of cultivation. She didn't need to comprehend the mysteries of the world on the Tianyuan continent, but her way of the zither was also a type of law, one of the myriad of ways, so these items would obviously benefit her. The heavenly enchantress hesitated to accept Jian Chen's items. She did not take them immediately. If Jian Chen was giving them to her to keep for Xiao Bao, she would not hesitate to take them. She believed that he was only supposed to give Xiao Bao things. However, it was a whole different matter if he was giving them to her to use. The spatial tunnel was not stable last time the foreign world attacked, so no Origin Realm experts came. Only a clone of their leader, the Spirit King, had come. However, the tunnel will become extremely stable the next time they attack. There will be Origin Realm experts. If you are not powerful enough, how will you protect Xiao Bao? Do you want to see Xiao Bao fall before you without being able to do anything? Jian Chen explained. A struggle unfolded within the heavenly enchantress' eyes when she heard his words, but she silently agreed with him in the end. She accepted Jian Chen's items because she understood the power of the foreign world very well. She understood that the next time they attacked, it would definitely be like a storm and the entire world become the battlefield. Nowhere would be safe, so the only way to survive was to be powerful enough. The Beast God continent was a land no smaller than the Tianyuan continent. 90% of its surface was covered in lush forests while enormous ancient mountain ranges stood in large clusters, almost occupying the entire continent. There was rarely any flat land. The Beast God continent was an extremely suitable habitat for the magical beasts. It was like heaven to them. Not only did the continent have far more mountain ranges than on the Tianyuan continent, but the energy of the world there was denser as well. They would be able to cultivate at greater speeds. The Beast God continent also had cities and tribes that represented the rulers of certain regions. Class 7 magical beasts in human form would shoot through the sky from time to time. Within an ancient mountain range, a young man in golden clothes lay lazily on a 3-meter-long branch. He was in a daze as he stared at the sky in exhaustion. Sigh, the Beast God continent is just far too vast. Even after becoming a Saint Emperor, it's not easy to find a specific person. I've already been here for several days, yet I haven't heard any news of that old snake. Where the hell is he hiding? The young man murmured. To no surprise, this young man was Nubis, and he had just broken through. Was there only that snake that had been slain by the Grand Elder of Mercenary City on the Beast God continent? Nubis furrowed his brows in thought before shaking his head again. Impossible, the sources of my information are reliable. There should be another, even more powerful snake on the Beast God continent, but I've found nothing regarding him even after several days of searching. Has that old snake been keeping a low profile, meaning he's not well known? Or is it that no one knows where that old snake is? Nubis suddenly slapped his knee after a moment of silence. He immediately sat up and said, "Since I can't find that old snake, I can only draw him out." I refuse to believe that I can't find you." Nubis was immediately encased by a dazzling golden light. His presence rapidly weakened as he bathed in the light, dropping from Saint Emperor to Saint King very quickly. It did not just stop there, dropping to even lower levels, before stopping at the level of a 9th heavenly layer Saint Ruler in the end. Afterward, Nubis transformed into a golden, several thousand-meter-long snake that was only the thickness of a tree in a single movement. He took to the sky, and from afar he seemed like a golden ribbon. Chapter 1412. Cloud-scattering city Nubis flew through the sky as a several thousand-meter-long snake. As a Class 9 magical beast, he had obviously comprehended the mysteries of the world at a high level. His body became blurry as he completely fused with the surrounding space, hurrying along with the use of spatial force. He moved extremely quickly, shooting across the sky and disappearing into the horizon. As a golden-striped silver snake, there will be a duel of life and death as soon as I meet another clansman. Although there have been a few golden-striped silver snakes across history, all of them have experienced a death match whenever they come across a clansman, as seen in my inherited memories. The victor will dominate and devour the essence of the loser, allowing the victor to evolve and become even stronger. There are extremely few golden-striped silver snakes in the world, so I refuse to believe that the old snake won't be interested once I broadcast my identity. He'll definitely come looking for me, and as soon as he appears, I'll be able to devour him and strengthen my essence, thought Nubis. He felt proud of himself for being able to think of this. He did not take the old snake's strength to heart at all. 10,000 kilometers away from Nubis, a city stood silently within a mountain range. It seemed to have been built on a mountain. Its top had been sliced off, and it was surrounded by countless other mountains. The city possessed a simple design. It only had a ring of low city walls, which were pitch black and built from a rare type of earth found on the Beast God continent. The rare type of earth was even tougher than rock. A powerful ripple of energy emanated from within the city walls, clearly channeled into the walls by a powerful magical beast, reinforcing the walls to become several times tougher than steel. Only Class 7 magical beasts and above possessed this ability. 2 words were carved on a slant on the city walls: Cloud Scattering. They represented the name of the city, which was Cloud Scattering City. The city was quite well known in a radius of 1,000,000 kilometers because the city possessed 2 powerful Class 7 magical beasts. One of them had reached the peak of Class 7, equivalent to the 9th heavenly layer of a Saint Ruler. The Beast God continent was no less brutal than the Tianyuan continent. Slaughter between the members of the same race were present everywhere, because it was a process for fast growth. They could either devour the monster cores of others to strengthen themselves or eat their flesh, hoping for the rare chance that a mutation would occur within their body. Once a mutation occurred, they would immediately undergo a rebirth, mutating from their very source. It was a similar process to when a human with average talent became a prodigy at cultivation. And these mutations did not only mean one would undergo a metamorphosis. It meant that their battle prowess could become even greater. This was why it was very difficult to find a safe place on the Beast God continent. If one was not strong enough, one would be hunted down even when cultivating and would die due to the slightest carelessness. Those who were strong could take up territory and claim to be its ruler, but even when that happened, they needed to be aware of even more powerful magical beasts who would come and fight them. The cities and tribes on the continent were the safe houses of many magical beasts. Every city or tribe possessed powerful magical beasts. They would create rules and order, banding together into organizations. As long as people became a member of these organizations or paid valuable heavenly resources to gain the right to stay there, they would be able to cultivate in peace without worrying about being attacked by others. Cloud Scattering City was as prosperous as any other day. A large amount of magical beasts moved in and out. All of them remained in beast form, ranging between Class 3 and Class 6 in strength. Large beasts stood over 10 meters tall while smaller ones were only a meter or two. There were many various species. Magical beasts developed intelligence far quicker on the Beast God continent than on the Tianyuan continent. As long as they had reached Class 2, they would have gained a lot of intelligence already, so regardless of strength, all the magical beasts behaved in an orderly fashion once they entered the city. They completely erased the viciousness they normally bore. At this moment, a golden streak of light hurried over formed the distance before stopping above the city in the end. It was a very long but thin snake. The snake was Nubis. He hovered above the city as he coldly gazed down. His gaze was filled with a cold-blooded ruthlessness. He opened his mouth and immediately sprayed out a dense, venomous substance. It rapidly engulfed the city below as a rolling cloud. The venom was extremely potent. It wafted through the air, and in a short moment, all the vegetation in the surrounding 10 kilometers withered at an unbelievable speed before turning to dust, dispersing in the incoming wind. The venomous gas descended on the city. Regardless how powerful the magical beasts were, the ones who came in contact with it collapsed on the ground, powerless as black blood oozed from their mouths. They did not even have the power to flee. All the magical beasts in the city became stunned with the sudden occurrence. They all turned their heads to where the gas had wafted over from as disbelief filled their faces. The city was watched over by 2 Class 7 magical beasts, and one of them had even reached the peak only a single step away from Class 8. The city had become a famed organization in the surrounding region of 1,000,000 kilometers because of the 2 of them. There had never been someone who dared to provoke them throughout history. They had no idea just which ignorant person had come to cause trouble. However, when the magical beasts saw the groups that had collapsed onto the ground, powerless as the venomous gas drifted over, they immediately fled for their lives. They left as quickly as they could. They did not care about whether the city could stop the invader. They needed to protect their lives first. In a single moment, the orderly city fell into a mess. All the magical beasts fled for their lives. Many of them showed fear when they witnessed how terrifying the gas was. At the same time, 2 tremendous presences radiated from beneath the city. The 2 most powerful experts in the city had emerged. 2 burly old men had silently appeared in the air. They both gave off a powerful presence. The 2 of them were both saint rulers. They were the 2 experts who watched over the city. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.